is joining this one. That's what it means. That was a special one. I don't think the Hawthorn song has been sung by a group of players with that much gusto for a very, very long time.
What a win for the Hawks. Thanks to Mick, thanks to Boomer, thanks to Jules pushing the buttons here. Hawks fans everywhere out in the middle. A crowd of more than 60,000 here at the MCG. See the Hawks upset the Pies. You can hear GWS and Sydney on the ABC Listen app tonight. For most of our audience, though, you're getting Geelong and Port Adelaide from Cardinia Park. Corbin Middlemass, Ben Cameron and the team down the highway at Geelong. What a win for this young Hawthorn team. 32 points. Enjoy the rest of your night with Grandstand AFL.
Grandstand AFL. This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2023 AFL season. AFL. On radio, on digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app. Look for the AFL button.
There's a set of key season shapers on the run home, and this is absolutely one of them. The reigning premiers Geelong on a two-game losing skid, trying to avoid back-to-back defeats at Cardinia Park for the first time since 2015, up against Port Adelaide, who have lost 3 in a row. Their place in the top 2 is in jeopardy, and they haven't been helped on the selection front. They lose 2 after that controversial concussion protocol wasn't followed last week. Aaliyah and Lockie Jones both out. On Friday night, they lost 2 to illness, Farrell and Dixon. And on game day, they've lost 2 more, Finlayson and Bergman. So 6 changes from the Port Adelaide team that lost the showdown last Saturday night. In comes Jonas, Rioli, Lord, Bonner, Burgoyne and Mead. While for the Cats, it's the first time since 2017 that they'll play a game of footy without both Hawkins and Blitzarves. They missed tonight. Radaglia and Parfitt come back in from the team that lost to Fremantle Saturday afternoon last week. My name's Corbin Middlemass. It is a glorious night for footy. 11 degrees in Geelong. There is a very slim chance of rain. We hope that stays away. The Cats trying to keep in touch with the top 8, and Port Adelaide trying to defend their spot in the top 2. Ben Cameron's here to call it all with me. Good evening, bunch.
Great to be down here, Corb. I mean, these Cats trying to defend their crown. They've already lost 9 times this year. Have they used up the 9 lives of their premiership defence? You have to go way back to 2007, the last time that Port Adelaide won down at Cardinia Park. That was Dom Cassisi kicking a goal with 5 seconds remaining in that win. They've lost 8 in a row since at this very venue.
It did amount in a top 2 finish and a grand final that year, and we know the rest, as Tom Jonas, who has so rarely been out there this year, just his 10th game, is attending the coin toss. Just one expert, but with very appropriately, he's the equivalent of 2 experts. Yep. Champion of the game, 334 games across 2 different clubs for Essendon and St Kilda. Brendan Goddard is with us again on Grandstand AFL. Good evening, Beach.
What a lead-in. Cats got 9 lives, so they've got none left, Benjamin. That would suggest they're going to win every game this year then.
Well, they might have already spent all of them, Beach. It might be over. Chris Scott doesn't think so. We'll find out tonight. So. They need to be winning tonight.
I don't think so, yeah. So interested in this game. I think it's pretty obvious that there's Geelong, their midfield is pretty depleted. They've got a couple of younger guys in there, and obviously a real strength of Port Adelaide is their midfield with Rosie, Butters, Wines, Boat going through there. So I'm interested to see that battle, and assuming that Port Adelaide wins that battle, it might be down to the Geelong defence, which has been also mighty for so long, hasn't it? So with Stewart leading the charge down there, so it might be on them today to help them get over the line because of the, with Hawkins out of the team, where to Geelong, it's actually now they're just going at their positions of players. So Henry's the one we had a discussion pre-game about who potentially goes forward, and it's Henry now because Radaglia has come in. So he said, where does Radaglia play? He's gone down back. Henry's the one gone forward.
So
which
Jack
happened.
Henry.
Yes.
Ollie
Sorry,
Henry's
there's 2
already
Henrys
forward,
now.
yeah.
Correct. Good point. But Jack Henry now forward, so which we saw him do on this season. So you see where they're going to try and get their goals from. Mitch Duncan starting in the forward line as well, which we haven't seen much this year. So I'm really intrigued to see what comes out of this game. But for me, even though Port Adelaide, you mentioned 6 outs, a couple of big outs for Geelong also, but I think Port Adelaide, just with the midfield dominance they should have, will get the chocolates tonight.
We'll get down to Ian Cohen in a moment, who's with us on the boundary tonight. Both teams have had somewhat of a controversial week. Jeremy Cameron headbutted at a Geelong pub last Saturday night, but he's out there and playing. And, of course, Port Adelaide, the controversial handling of that collision last Saturday night. Let's see how they go, colliding with one another. The Cats and the Power on Grandstand AFL. You're with Ben Cameron.
Vicentini and Stanley contested. It comes down at ground level and quickly wrapped up. A secondary ball up in the middle. Geelong in their home hoops, the white shorts. Port Adelaide, their home black jumper with the teal V and the white V and the black shorts. Coming in, getting involved here, and immediately emerging with the football is Atkins, but he's wrapped up quickly and will go again in the middle. Bit of an anticlimactic start. Both rucks miss it. Stanley flicks it away. Free kick. Free kick will go to Stanley in the middle. So Geelong with the opening takeaway. Stanley a little bereft initially. He'll look short. Leaning up and offering his Atkins. He marks. Gives it off to Duncan. Waits a kick for a leading Cameron. Couple of bites at it, doesn't mark, follows up at half forward, Boak there with him, Duncan able to pick it up for the Cats. Handball away to Tui, left half forward, handball back to Cameron, tight roping the boundary line, going short, and Ollie Henry bursting onto it, he marks in the pocket, 25 out, hard up against the boundary line, left half forward.
Ian Cohen is on the boundary. Good evening, Koza.
Yes, good evening, Clubs. Beautiful night for football. Not even a zephyr around. The premiership flags a limp on the Reg Hickey stand side. For those playing at home, Tom Jonas won the toss and Port Adelaide going to the River End with the subs perfect for Geelong. Oh,
there goes Ollie Henry bending through the first. And the Cats are away on Saturday night. Through the agency of Ollie Henry, one straight 6 to no score through the opening 97 seconds. Ian Cohen before Brendan got home.
he didn't muck around there, did he? Obviously got straight into it. Brandon Parfitt, as I was saying, with the sub, and Jackson Mead, the tactical sub or sub for Port Adelaide. So there you go, first goal to the Cats. So sorry, boys.
Yeah, well, the Cats have started well, haven't they? Port Adelaide, I think, yet to have an effective disposal, but a couple of their better players, and that's what I was going to say just before the bounce is I think for Geelong to win tonight, their experience, stars have to really start tonight. One being Cameron in the forward line. I think the other one's Dangerfield, who's been a little bit, quiet in terms of his form in the last kind of 6 weeks, coming off a couple of injuries. But I think those two in particular, looking for them tonight to get. So Jeremy Cameron with a great delivery to Henry to kick us off with a goal for Geelong.
On a 16-game goal streak as well now, Ollie Henry, only goalless once in the hoops.
Crooked bounce back in the middle, recalled. Opening goal for the Cats, still no clean possession for the Power. Vicentini wins the hit out, but straight to Atkins, sends Geelong to half forward. On the half volley, Burton can't trap it, spills to Drew, still with the Power. Hand pass to Wines, he's met hard in the tackle from Bruin. Forces the neutral ball and a ball up on that eastern wing. Just repeating full time at the G, 32-point win for Hawthorn over Collingwood. Huge boil over. There's Stanley at the restart, knocks it free to Duncan, superb delivery. And in that leading lane at half forward, Jeremy Cameron hugs it to his chest. He's had a couple of touches already. He'll shoot at goal here from about 35 out.
Yeah, right, Mitch Duncan, he's starting forward, then coming up high to the stoppage, trying to get a bit of support, I think, for the stoppage. With the with the pace and leg speed of Port Adelaide in there.
Oh, Cameron snaps across the body. Didn't even have the trip from about 40 out. And in the end, McKenzie takes the intercept mark on the behind line. Goes short to Rosie in the back pocket for Port. No score. Geelong one straight. Port Adelaide yet to hit the board 3.5 minutes in.
Rosie goes back to McKenzie at fullback. Stabs it short and spots up Bonner. One of the really late inclusions for Port here today as he goes laterally away to Butters, who runs around one and then chips it short. Good kick to Houston. Defensive edge of the square for Port. Kicks up the middle, trying to get it towards Marshall. Right there with him, Guthrie. That's Zach Guthrie, the only one in the team today. And it's held in at ground level for a ball up. Duncan at the bottom of the pack. And a ball up in the middle of Cardinia Park. Saturday night football. Geelong with the opening score, a goal through Ollie Henry.
Vicentini wins the hit out opposed to Stanley. Got it to Pepper, hand pass to Butters. Kicks inside the forward arc. Rioli the target, whistle on the play. A hold. It's Rioli's kick. And Willie's going to get it. Top of the goal square.
There's definitely a free kick in there. I think it was Colin Jasny you mentioned. It's just, there's that pace though from the Port Adelaide midfielders. Butters that got out the front of the stoppage and got on the end of it. A little tap or handball from Powell Pepper and just to Kolajasny under pressure with a good kick to Rioli's advantage.
Rioli gets Port going. So both teams trade a goal each to start through the first 5 minutes. And Willie Rioli, one of the 6 inclusions for Port Adelaide back from suspension, kicks their first of the night. 1 straight 6 apiece. 5 minutes gone opening term. Brendan Goddard on Grandstand AFL.
So as I may mention, just the pace of the midfield. Horn Francis now come in there for Butters, who's just popped out. So they just got guys, they've got so much pace and leg speed just to be able to burst some stoppages, and that helps them be more effective from stoppages and have more effective clearances. So just when you do win it in the middle of the ground like that, Butters had pretty much the whole 50 to work with, and just a slight kick to advantage to Rioli put Kolajasny under pressure, which forced him just to scrag and kind of scrap for it and give away an obvious free kick.
Back from suspension, Willie Rioli, a crooked bounce in the middle. The umpires today, Hosking, Broadbent, Meredith and Gian Fagner. 1 straight 6 apiece through the opening 6 minutes. Vicentini goes up early. Stanley stays down, lays it down. Trying to get it towards Bruin. It comes back to Stanley. He'll kick the Cats inside 50. A shallow entry. Stengel trying to gather on the bounce. Can't initially. Allows in Burton there for Port. Handball to Williams, to McKenzie, to Rosie, back to Burton. Now he's running off halfback. Kick up towards the wing. A good kick for Wines. The 2021 Brownlow medalist backward of the wing on the western side of the ground at Cardinia Park.
In front of the Cats interchange. Looks for Travis Boak. In front of him, Stewart does well to bring it down for the Cats to Bruin. Hand pass away to Stanley. Hot handball to Holmes. Oh, his hand pass missed Tui. Goes back, collects, gives it to Stewart. Defensive side of the wing. Kicks Geelong over halfway. McKenzie leaves his man. Spoils. Loose footy on the wing. Cats win it. Bruin onto it. Hand pass along the boundary line. Duncan can't trap it. Boak puts his head over the footy. O'Connor over the top. Caught him high. And Travis Boak will get the footy half-back for Port, so a goal each for the first 7 minutes.
Bites off the kick to centre half-back, spots up Burton, kicks into the middle of the ground, finds Horn Francis. He kicks up the middle, overshoots the target of Rioli. Kolajasny at the back for the Cats. Turnover with his kick. Straight to Burn Jones for Port. Attacking edge of their square, he'll go laterally away to Bonner, and he chips it short to Drew. 49 out, he looks into the pocket, and Rioli's free, marks 35 out. Worse than a 45-degree angle in the left forward pocket. Willie wants to chip it on, and very close to the line in the left forward pocket. The mark taken by Powell Pepper.
Tippett, I don't have long to make any comments here because he's going to play on and snap around his body, but it was really good ball movement here from the half-back flank for Port Adelaide. Got it back in the corridor. Horns Francis involved, who missed the kick to Rioli, who had a lot of time and space, and then another turnover came.
The forward 50 pressure machine hits the scoreboard. Powell Pepper hooks it through. Port have back-to-back majors and their first lead of the night. They're 2 straight 12. Geelong 1 straight 6. 8 minutes played. Grandstand AFL, Brendan Goddard.
And that's one way to, I guess, kind of minimise the impact of Geelong defenders is get the ball back into the middle and change the angle, which good defenders, they tend to get in line with the ball really well and rely on the pressure up the field just to kick it down the line, which they have the most impact. But Port Adelaide, you can see it pretty early, just their intent just to move the ball back through the corridor. It's the second time now. It's not really risky. There was a riskier kick earlier to Houston that found him in the corridor, but you can see their intent to get it back through there and expose, one, their Geelong midfielders, and two, just take out those great sag-off defenders, and Stewart in particular.
Stanley wins the hit-out, but first possession for Vicentini, his direct opponent, a centre-half forward for Rosie. Hand pass to Horn Francis, took on the tackle, lost it. Comes out to Zach Guthrie, hand pass to Holmes, kicks to the outer wing, finds Myers, pulls the trigger back inboard to Close. Just got there in time, had his arms chopped. Umpire says advantage applied. Holmes races away, kicks inside 50. It's out the back. Stengel off the deck, soccers it through. 2 goals each to start. 10 minutes in, we're all knotted up again at 2 straight 12 apiece. 9.5 gone opening term on Grandstand AFL. Brendan Goddard.
Right, looks like
McKenzie.
It was an incident earlier before Powell Pepper kicked their goal. Just he was standing in the middle of the ground. I noticed he was starting to limp and play with his knee, and then fast forward 2 or 3 minutes later, that bit of play, he's put his hand up to the bench, which is not a good sign. Generally asking for help.
This is a catastrophe for Port because we know the problems that they've had down back. Aaliyah already missing, and now Mackenzie hobbling to the bench. Ian Cohen's down there. Ian.
Yeah, the medical staff have jumped straight on the attention for Trent Mackenzie at the moment. He's reaching down. He's put the mouthguard into the sock, but obviously issues with that lower leg or knee at the moment.
Thanks, Koza. Back in the middle. Horn Francis coming through. Handball too hot for Willem Drew. Back to Vicentini. He kicks it straight into Drew. Goes towards half forward. Big bump. Holmes is cleaned up. And he's a little worse for wear as well. Coming through, just clipping him, Boom Jones. And they'll come away with the football here, Geelong. Out towards the Hickey stand wing. Ollie Henry takes on his man Burgoyne. Kicks towards full forward. And over to Mark Duncan. Dangerfield Rose. Snaps and goes. Brilliant from Danger. And Geelong with their first back-to-back majors to start tonight. It's a shootout. Early on at the Cattery, 11 minutes in. 3 straight 18, plays 2 straight 12. Brendan Goddard.
Well, it was a good contest, wasn't it, on the far side where Brian Myers got on the end of it. Just hit Ollie Henry, and then he just had the courage just to play on off Burgoyne, who's not slow, by the way, and just get that ball in to find some isolation. Duncan made a good contest, but you had Dangerfield queuing up for the mark if it wasn't Duncan, and then was just in a great spot to impact. Did fall in his lap, mind you, but a good finish. But it's a concerning thing. Cameron had impact on Geelong's first couple of goals, and I was worried about that matchup in Jonas. I was wondering how long it will last, and the only other alternative they had was Mackenzie, and he's just gone off the ground. So a little bit already coming into the game undersized and just lost their other key defender. 5
goals and 2 league changes in the first 11 minutes. Port out the middle. Horn Francis hands it to Butters. Hits up Junior Rioli, who marks out on the lead, and he's got it 30 metres out straight in front. He's already kicked one, and Willie's got a chance to make it 2.
Well, I know you can't see that for the people listening, but I don't want to underestimate how good that kick was from Butters, who came out again out of the stoppage, finding speed, finding space out the front, and a kick across his body to the open side of the ground and hit Rioli lace out.
Rioli, drop punt, no problems. Ties the game again. We're only 13 minutes in. Rioli with a couple. Port Adelaide 3 straight. Geelong 3 straight. All level after 12 and a half minutes, 18 points apiece. Some late drama coming in with 6 changes for Port Adelaide. They're missing 7 or 8 of their best 22. And, of course, the Cats without Blitzarves and Hawkins for the first time since 2017. Ian Cullen's on the boundary. Koza, any update on Trent Mackenzie?
Yeah, no, he's still sitting on the table at the moment. The physio and the doctor have both been working on it. The knee looks to be the issue. They're testing one knee against another and assessing that. At the moment, Jackson Mead, the sub, is sitting on the bike getting the legs warm.
You mentioned, Beach, not a good sign when the player's still on the field looking to the bench.
Yeah, and putting their hand up. So obviously flagging to the medical team in particular that he needs some help and assistance and needs to get off ASAP.
Lord in the ruck for Port Adelaide. Jack Henry there for Geelong. Comes down off hands. Butters able to get a clearing kick towards half forward for Port. Geelong have the numbers. Bose comes away with the footy. Gets a handball away. Off to Holmes, who's run down. It'll come back. So Bose was just dealt with, pushed in the back as he got his handball away, and he'll get the free kick at centre-half back for the Cats. Stabs it short. Away to O'Connor. O'Connor goes long, out towards Radagalia. He goes up and gets it. He takes the mark. Impossibly an audition game. A link to a move to Port Adelaide next year. Kicks the Cats to half-forward. Myers goes short, and leading up Izzy Smith. He takes it out in front, 45 out, on a 45-degree angle right-hand side.
Can I say this is a shootout?
Yeah.
It just looks like they're about to score both teams look like they're about to score every time they touch the footy and go forward. So it's pretty slick ball movement and use, mind you, from both teams.
It's like a basketball game, end-to-end, and scoring on every possession. Isaac Smith continues the trend. Dobs it from range. And Geelong are back out by a goal. 4 straight 24 plays, 3 straight 18. Nearing the quarter-hour mark in this opening stanza, Brendan Goddard.
Yeah, well, 7 goals in 14 minutes of footy. Tipping there's not too many games this year that have both teams have started as well as they have, but Yeah, it's great ball movement from the back half, free kick. Geelong, Radicalea getting forward of the play as a key back and then just impacting the game airily and then giving off to Brian Myers, who, as we know, we say it every time we do a Geelong game, he's the number one
goal assist
man in the competition.
Kicked a regulation drop punt to Isaac Smith. Didn't kick around the body like he normally does on that occasion.
Only when you need to.
5-point lead for the Swans early doors up in Sydney, so 2 straight to 1-1 over the Giants. Restart back in the middle, crooked bounce. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, Trent McKenzie now up and off the table, but that right knee now very heavily strapped. He's given it a little wander round at the moment. They haven't pulled the trigger yet on the sub.
And Koza, Jack Henry pinch hitting in the ruck here, wins a hit out, but there's a repeat stoppage. Another ball up as Rosie's locked up immediately. Henry wins it a second time. That's Jack down to Rosie, knocks it forward to the goal kicker Smith. Can kick Geelong inside 50. Hand on it from Rowan. Spills through to Ollie Henry. Tackled by Williams. Ball comes out. Jonas had it. He's met straight away. Pack forms around him. Houston trying to drag it in. Holds the footy on the deck and the umpire says I'll have it. A ball up 40 metres out from the Cats' goal. Kicking to the City end in the opening quarter. Geelong 4 straight. Port Adelaide 3 straight. 16 minutes in.
Cameron doing the ruck work. Opposed to Ollie Wines, trying to bring it down and clear and kick coming from McEntee for Port. Mark taken by Horn Francis. Defensive edge of the square. Gives it off to Burgoyne. He'll kick from half back to half forward in the Lord direction. Out bodies Radicalea. Attacking edge of the square here for Port. He'll look into the pocket looking for a leading target. Marshall diving. Can't take the mark. Spills out. Picked out by Pal Pepper. He's tackled quickly. All up left forward pocket here for Port. Geelong by a goal.
As that for a ruck combination in Ollie Wines, it was Jeremy Cameron, but it's Jack Henry opposing Ollie Wines for Port Adelaide.
Marshall slow to get up. The ball's in his vicinity. Port Adelaide win it in the forward 50 and then they stop play. Gee, the play continued for a good few Mississippis and then the umpire says as soon as Port Adelaide grabbed the ball, Ollie Lord looked as if he was about to have a shot at goal and instead Marshall crouched over, and only when Port win the footy in their forward 50 have they stopped play. There would have been probably 4 or 5 hand passes from Geelong players in and around Marshall.
I'm going to say so it's okay if Geelong win it, but that was Marshall in the last forward 50 entry. He dove for the ball and fell on it, and as we know, that's the old winded. Hopefully his ribs are okay, but falling on the footy. The
other thing is not just falling on the footy, is the contact that the head makes as he hits the surface as well. And of course, the sensitivity's given the week that it's been. He's started the slow jog off the ground and he's got 2 trainers alongside him.
And the doctor's a human being. He'll be feeling the pressure of, obviously, the week that it's been, no doubt.
Up it goes. Jack Henry wins it down to Atkins. He's taken high in the tackle. Free kick for Atkins, half-back for Geelong. Cats lead it by 6. Races away with the footy. Kicks out wide to Isaac Smith. Spoils down to Bowes. Quick release. Hand pass to Zach Guthrie. Gives it to Smith. In front of the interchange. Long to Rowan. Who's up and marking. Gary Rowan at left half forward. Takes it for the Cats. 45 out.
It was a good grab in the end, but it was pretty good ball movement again. Port being a little bit unlucky, as he said, that blew the whistle and forced another ball up about 35 out in the slight angle, and then from there Geelong win it, kicked it long to this interchange side. It was a good contest by Isaac Smith and they had the outnumber. It was Gary Rowan started on that far wing. It would have been a 120 metre sprint to get on the end of this.
Rowan right foot drop punt, looks okay off the boot, fades out to the right. Ollie Henry's up and marking on the behind line, leaps up, rips it down. And the question is it over the behind line or not? We'll have a conference and a trip to the arc.
Well, Port Adelaide players, they're convinced that it's over, but Ollie Henry thinks otherwise, to be honest. It'll be a big mistake for Port Adelaide if they allow Ollie Henry to be flying unattended and taking a mark.
I think the soft call is a mark. The soft call is a mark from the field umpire, so they'll need to prove that all the balls over the line. It looks as if it is.
Is it though?
Yep, I think so.
The whole ball. Is the line's determined by the padding on
the ball's controlled before crossing the back of the behind line. Decision on the scoreboard.
There you go, Beach. Controlled before the ball crosses the behind line, and Ollie Henry's going to get his kick.
So the behind line essentially from the side-on view is the width of the padding on the post.
So Ollie Henry will open up the angle, snap with his left boot. He kicked the first to the 9. He's now got 2. Geelong's lead grows. 20 minutes in, the Cats are 5 straight. Port Adelaide 3 straight. Gee, a bit happening before the bounce and the first 20 minutes since. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
We know the Port Adelaide medical staff have certainly been under scrutiny this week. They've taken no chances and walked Todd Marshall down into the rooms with the doctor at the moment, so he's going to be assessed down in the rooms.
I don't think has Marshall had any head knock injury histories?
Yeah, I think he has.
Yeah, so that's even more concerning. So, but yeah, Port Adelaide, you'd be disappointed with that, particularly the coaches, but you just can't allow a forward to be flying under 10, and you can't assume that the ball's going to go over 2, mind you. So Geelong and Ollie Henry have started really well.
Have started games well this year, Geelong. 1-14 of their opening term. Stanley with the clearance. High ball towards half forward. Bouncing ball. Bounces away to close. Handball away to Tui. Can't quite gather it. Has to go back and try and get it. Right there with him, Boat. Getting involved, Stengel. Comes out towards Tui. Close to the line. Handball over his head. Getting involved, Burgoyne. Handball back into play. Straight to Braun for Geelong. He'll kick towards full forward. It bounces out the back. There to mop up Dersma for Port. He'll dump it on the boot. His kick towards Vaughan Francis. A good mark inside his D50. And he saves the day for Port, at least for now. Geelong by 2 goals.
He goes short and wide out to Williams, who takes the mark at right half back for the Cats. Missed a Friday night game with Melbourne earlier this year in the concussion protocols. Todd Marshall. As Williams goes long down the wing, and Sam DeConey's bowled over. He'll get a free kick for that. Just repeating full time at the MCG earlier, the Hawks by 32 over Collingwood, so the Pies lose 2 in a row. As DeConey links up with Stewart, high up and under to centre half forward. Butters underneath it, strong mark. What a player he is, what a season he's having. Centre half back for Port Adelaide. Short kick to Burgoyne, gets it straight back. Butters heads out to the eastern wing, and Boak takes the mark right on halfway for the power.
He'll run away with it. Feed a handball to Bonner. A deadly left leg. He kicks long into the pocket looking for Lord. Can't quite take the mark. Spills down to full forward here for the power. Comes out initially towards Houston and then clearing for Geelong. With a long kick, his homes towards halfback.
Rosie collects. Hand pass goes out of play. Trying to link up with his captain Jonas. Boundary throw in 55 out from the power goal.
It's really smart for Jonas there. In the contest, he's tapped it towards his goal, but he knew he had support in Rosie front and centre then, and just expected Jonas just to continue on to get a handball boundary side. But
McKenzie on the bike, on the bench. Haven't seen him return after he hobbled off the ground earlier in the quarter. For the boundary throwing, Houston knocks it inside 50, winds, head pass to Powell-Pepper, great smother. Bowes with the goal saver. Forces the ball out to Bruin, kicks down the wing. Jack Henry in a wrestle, spills to Burgoyne, hand pass away to Bonner, who went without it. Stengel collects, floats a kick to half forward. Burton left his man, comes off. Cameron takes the intercept mark, centre half back for Port.
Wants to bite off the kick into the centre square. Finds the chest of Vaughan Francis. Backward of the logo on the red Hickey stand wing. Takes a bounce, runs around his man, chips it short. And Burne-Jones is able to mark. Attacking edge of the square here for Port. Likes the short option. Goes short, away to McEntee. 55 out from goal at the Barwon River end. McEntee just lays it up towards full forward. Stewart drops the mark. Allows in Vaughan Francis. He can't gather. There's a free kick on the play. It's coming back. It'll go to Vaughan Francis. Impeded. And the free kick, 25 out, slightest of angles to the right-hand side.
I know it was a mistake by Stewart, just dropped mark, which we rarely see, but I think both teams and their coaches wouldn't be happy with just the ease at which both teams are just moving the ball, particularly when they win it in their back half. It's both teams really aren't able to lay a hand on each other. So, yes, it's good ball movement, but at this level, we're talking about a team that's sitting second on the ladder and one that's the reigning premiers. It's I think they'll be expecting a little bit better, so just to tighten up defensively, when they turn the ball over in their back half.
Set shot for Horn Francis is straight through the middle. The champs and the challengers are going toe-to-toe. 5 straight 30 Geelong, put Adelaide 4 straight 24. 25-minute mark of the opening term here on Grandstand AFL.
You see Mackenzie, he still hasn't been on, so he's probably been off for a good 10 minutes now, so doing some tests on the sideline. But he hasn't made mention that defensively both teams just need to tighten up, and something that I assume they'll address at quarter time. It's a great spectacle, mind you, 9 goals in the first quarter, first 25 minutes, and the efficiency with they're doing it. So they haven't seen it behind yet, so they can't miss either, which is a good sign. But there's a good ball use from the turnover from Burton, got a half-back flank, good run from Horn Francis, who got involved in the first chain and then went on to push hard forward and create a contest, and again drop mark from Stewart cost Geelong dearly.
Sydney by 5, 18-minute mark of the opening term against the Giants. Back here, it's the Cats by 6. Out of the middle, Duncan. Hand pass goes wide to Bruin. Drew Clever knocks it away. Dursma bowled over. Smith picks it up, kicks inside 50. Ollie Henry hits up, no mark, gets it free. Had his arms hacked in the marking contest, and Ollie Henry will get it out wide, 45 from goal.
Yeah, didn't really have any eyes for it, didn't disguise it as well as he could have, but the old chopping the arms. If you're not in the vicinity of the ball and you make contact with the arms, I think it's a pretty obvious free kick, so not overly happy with it. But again, just a good contest from Geelong. Smith getting on the end of it, just a really good kick to advantage to Ollie Henry, who started really well.
He's got 2 already. It's been a perfect kicking night so far. This kick out to the right doesn't register a score. Whack down to Tui, who shoots hurriedly, misses, hits the post. First blemish of the night either way. So 5-1 to 4 straight, 27 minutes in. Geelong by 7 points.
Burton taking the kick in. Short to the pocket for Jace Burgoyne. Second generation. But Adelaide player, long kick up towards the wing. Spills down in front of the pack. Butters there to mop up. Handball away to Horn Francis. Handball releases Rosie running through the middle of the ground. He'll kick long. Pepper at full forward. Zach Guthrie back there. Bounce favours Rioli at the back, who runs into an open goal. He's got 3, Willie. And it's back to a point. 5 straight 30 plays, 5-1-31. What a high-octane opening term at Cardinia Park. 27.5 minutes in. Brendan Goddard.
This is outrageous how efficient both teams are going. And again, it was a kick in from Port Adelaide. You can classify it, which happens rarely, right? I think I reeled this stat off last week that the Melbourne were the best team from defending their own kick-ins, and they didn't allow 1 goal last year. So that's 1 tonight to Port Adelaide. But again, a little bit opportunistic. They got a lucky bounce from that kick inside 50 from Connor Rosey. Stewart. It looked like Stewart and Guthrie had it covered, and then he got the old dreaded bounce straight up over their head. And Willie Rioli was in the right spot at the right time.
Visitini wins the hit out in the middle, comes down to Butters, short kick to his mate Rosie, high half forward, hand pass to Boak, trying to get back onto his right side, hand pass back to Rosie, little dance step, hand pass goes away to Butters, right on the 50, kicks into the pocket, Pepper hand on it, spills to Lord, the famous Geelong name, snaps right to the behind line, and in the end it's whacked through by Radagalia. And the scores are level. It's the 4th time that scores have been level since we've started. 5-1-31 apiece. Corbin, Middlemass, Ben Cameron, Ian Cohen on the boundary, Brendan Goddard. 3 for Willie Rioli, Ben, a bit like the Whales. So free Willie.
3 Willie. Long kick out towards the wing from Stewart. Down in front, Drew. Handball stolen there by Myers. Is tackled by Drew, loses it. Burn Jones tracking after it, flicks out a handball. Away towards Burton, who will kick Port to half forward. Radagalia juggles it. It was like Chauncey Rhodes at point, knocked it into the air and then caught it on the way down. Nice mark there by Big Sava Radagalia. Right half back. Scores level for a 4th time, as Corbin said. Kick to the wing. Burton hands to it. Doesn't mark for Port. Butters trying to come through. Now Tui. He's gang tackled, in trouble. Taken down towards ground. And pinged, holding the ball. And Port Adelaide will come away with the footy.
Oh, in the middle of the ground, Rosie bit off a bit more than he could chew. Coughed up the footy, but he was tripped. The tackle slipped from Brad Close. Rosie will get it in the middle of Kardinia Park. The yellow Sharon returned to the Port Adelaide champ, the 23-year-old who leads the competition in inside 50s. He adds another one to his tally here as he lays it up to the hot spot. Lord crashes the pack, spills out the back to McEntee. Under pressure, hand pass back to Lord. He fumbles, coughs it up. Geelong through Atkins. Hand pass out to Tui against the boundary line. He's shoved out of play. And the boundary throw in 60 out from the power goal, left half forward. 31 points apiece here. Meanwhile in Sydney, time on opening term, we've had a lead change there. So the Giants by 7 points over the Swans. If you want to listen to that game through the ABC Listen app, look out for the AFL Extra button.
Stanley hooks it down, onto it quickly, Butters. Wrenched off the footy, spills out towards Boat. Caught with it at half forward, Rosie. Away towards Bonner, high kick inside 50. Going up, unable to mark there is Mead. Or McEntee rather, and then a clearing kick coming from Zach Guthrie, a kick up to the wing. Vicentini punching it away. Advantage to the Cats down the Hickey stand wing.
Myers pulls his kick short to Ollie Henry, hands it to Close, back to Henry, high half forward, hand pass back to Myers. The same three Cats, kicks to Jeremy Cameron. Jonas knocks it away from him, but knocks his arms. Jeremy Cameron gets the footy, 40 out, dead in front.
How good was that from Cat Smalls, albeit from a free kick on the far side, but their use of hands, the ability to spread and run hard back. Brian Myers, Close, Henry, because initially they didn't have anything to kick to, and then they had to kind of make it up as they went along, but they were actually clean enough, smart enough to find each other a number of times, and then allowed Jeremy Cameron to get back and create space and get on the end of it.
Jeremy Cameron, headstrong, knocks good. It's his first of the night. 31 minutes in, the Cats keep their nose in front, 6-1 to 5-1. 32 minutes travelled opening term.
Well, it's going to be a 35-minute quarter. There's 11 goals scored in the first term, which I dare say is the highest by both teams. Although, St Kilda last week, there was 11 goals in the first term, we kicked 9 of them, but both teams high scoring, 6 and 5 goals apiece, so just the efficiency, it's crazy. Again, I haven't looked at the numbers inside 50s, but it feels like both teams that every time they go in they're scoring. Geelong then, again, just had to make it up on the far side. It was great work by the Smalls. As I said, Jeremy Cameron, that's the matchup I was worried about at the beginning with Tom Jonas. Been a great player for a long time, the captain, but just Jeremy Cameron has got too much speed and agility for him from on.
Stanley laying it on a platter for Dangerfield. Working around the back, his kick dribbles to half forward, Poke under pressure, coughs it up, Geelong back the other way, close to Stengel, has a fumble, time to recover, eyes the goals and misses. Away to the left. Out to 7 points, Geelong's advantage, Ian Cohen.
Yeah, good news for Port Adelaide fans. Hopefully Todd Marshall is walking now the boundary back from the rooms after being assessed. We'll wait and see what the doctor says.
33 minutes gone opening term. As Houston takes the mark back pocket, long up to the wing, more intervention, free kick for Horn Francis, knocked out of the way. So Cats by 7 points. As we close in on quarter time, he goes short to Burgoyne. Backward of the logo, eastern side, heads down to half forward, contest kick. Spills front and centre to Boat, trying to weave his way through traffic, kicks inside 50. Frankie Evans up, can't take the mark, landed awkwardly. Ball hits the deck. Guthrie over the top of it. Pack forms around him and we'll have a ball up. Half forward for Port Adelaide, kicking the Barwon River end of the opening term. Cats lead the game by 7. 34 gone opening quarter.
Stanley wins the tap, straight to Duncan, who gives it off to Dangerfield. Floating a kick up towards the wing. Vicentini goes up. Following up, Roanoke for the Cats. Handball to Stengel. Slaps it onto Cameron. Now Myers. Chips a little. Bouncing ball forward. Rowan picks it up. Back to Myers. Inside 50. And the Cats work it coast to coast. And it ends up in the hands of Ollie Henry. 40 out. Slightest of angles to the left-hand side.
And again, it feels like I'm repeating myself. It's Geelong Smalls that are getting the work, so just the half-backs. A little bit inexperienced in young Burgoyne, Ollie Bonner that hasn't played. a heap of footy the last 3 or 4 years, but they just need to be getting a better position, better starting position, keep Geelong's high half forwards and small forwards up in front of you. Don't let them go offside.
So Ollie Henry comes in and puts through his third on the siren. Ollie Henry, a triple treat in the opening term, and the Cats are out by 13 at the first change. 7-2-44, plays 5-1-31 here on Grandstand AFL. The goal kickers, as I said, Henry with 3, then singles to Jeremy Cameron, Isaac Smith, Kyson Stengel, Ryan Myers and Patrick Dangerfield, while for Port Adelaide, 3 to Willie Rioli, and then singles to Horn Francis and Pau Pepper.
2 lead changes in that opening quarter. The score was level on 4 different occasions after we started, and a 13-point lead for Geelong is a game high at quarter time, so 7-2 to 5-1. Bit of late drama as well with 6 changes for Port Adelaide. They lost 2 last night in Farrell and Dixon. They lost 2 more today, all with illness. Finlayson and Bergman, the 2 matchday scratchings for the Power, so a very different looking team. They've got 8 guys out there who have played 35 games or less. Meanwhile, up in Sydney, approaching quarter time there in the derby, it is the Giants by 2 points, so GWS leading 4-2 to 4 straight over the Swans.
Derby or Derby?
I think they're a derby in Sydney.
What do you say though?
We're Derby, given the native Sandgroper in us both, but it's Sydney Derby, for whatever it's worth. The thoughts of Brendan Goddard coming up next. The Cats by 13 points at quarter time on ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital and through the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
What's your favourite Aussie animal sound? Are you mad for magpies? Keen on the koala? Do you like to wallow in whale song? Or maybe you're team tree frog? How about whatever it is that lyrebirds do when they're actually being lyrebirds? To celebrate National Science Week, the ABC is looking and listening for Australia's favourite animal noise. Find out more at abc.net.au/sound.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Handball awaited to left half forward. Handball back to Cameron. Tight roping the boundary line. Going short, and Ollie Henry bursting onto it. He marks in the pocket. Here goes Ollie Henry bending through the first. And the Cats are away on Saturday night. Willie wants to chip it on. And very close to the line in the left forward pocket. The mark taken by Pau Pepper. The forward 50 pressure machine hits the scoreboard. Pau Pepper hooks it through.
Holmes races away, kicks inside 50, it's out the back, Stengel off the deck, soccers it through.
Ollie Henry takes on his man Burgoyne, kicks towards full forward, unable to mark Duncan, Dangerfield rose, snaps and goals.
5 goals and 2 lead changes in the first 11 minutes. Port out the middle. Horn Francis hands it to Butters. Hits up Junior Rioli. Rioli, drop punt. No problems. Ties the game again. So Ollie Henry will open up the angle. Snap with his left boot. He kicked the first to the 9. He's now got 2. Geelong's lead grows.
Rosie running through the middle of the ground. He'll kick long. Pau Pepper at full forward. Zach Guthrie back there. Bounce favours Rioli at the back, who runs into an open goal. He's got 3, Willie. And it's back to a point. So Ollie Henry comes in and puts through his third on the siren. And the Cats are out by 13.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Last time these two teams met, Geelong started like they'd been shot out of a cannon. They kicked 6 goals in the first quarter. They actually led by 7 at half-time, and Port Adelaide completely stormed over the top in the second half. They ended up winning that game by 38 points, and that was just 7 weeks ago in round 14, the last time they met. Again, it's a fast start for the Cats tonight at home at Kardinia Park. Geelong by 13, a 12-goal opening term, 7 goals to 5. The Cats lead it. Brendan Goddard is with us on Grandstand AFL with his take on that opening term.
Oh, so much to talk about, isn't it? 12 goals in the first quarter. Literally just shootout footy, which is great to watch. But again, I think if you're the coach, you just wish you had been a little bit better defensively, particularly Port Adelaide's high half-backs. They're just getting sieved on the way back. The Geelong high half forwards, Henry essentially is kind of the third of the 3 I'm about to mention it in Myers and Close, but they get you up the ground, and when they win it, they work so hard and fast back that is allowing them to get goal side. And once they get goal side, you on a little forward, they're just they're sniffing the goals and goal assists. So Jeremy Cameron's, which would normally be Tom Hawkins, but Jeremy Cameron playing a little bit deeper. So it just with their use of hands, their ability to find one another further up the field, just allows Jeremy Cameron then to get back and find a lot of space on Jonas. So he's essentially working back with a whole 50 to himself when their small forwards and mids are working the ball through the midfield and between the arcs, and they just look like scoring every time they win the ball in between the arcs. So, and on the other side of it, Port Adelaide's mids, I highlighted just before the game that have the dominance in there. I thought just with their speed and agility and their run, particularly offensively, in Connor Rosie, Butters, Horn Francis, they've got 30 disposals between the three of them, and Horn Francis hit the scoreboard. So you can see there just offensive, potential and attack when they do win the ball. But I just think both teams and coaches would just like to tighten up defensively. So what Port Adelaide are also doing well is just making the Geelong defenders accountable, not allowing Stewart or DeConey or Kolajasny and Radigalia even just to provide that aerial support. You rarely see Geelong defenders isolated one-on-one inside their defensive 50, because that's how well they read the play, and two, just how they help out one another. So Port Adelaide players, particularly Rioli, got out on Kolajasny a couple of times, but just the change of angle with Port Adelaide's ball use, getting it to the open side, just allows them to find a bit more space and isolation. So both teams are red hot offensively, but I just think the team now that can just tighten up defensively will just dry up the other team's scoring, which I think from history it is Port Adelaide over the last 10 weeks. I know they're coming off a number of losses, but and there's the dominance in the midfield to get ground position. So interesting watch this second quarter.
Second term underway, 13-point lead for Geelong. Stanley wins the head out. Duncan can't trap it. Spills to Drew with the power. Hand pass to Butters. Nice works. Got his way around. Atkins kicks to half forward. All hands on it. No mark from Evans. Spills to Lord. Hand pass went to Rosie. He's tackled, lost it, and there's Atkins again. On his hands and knees, extracts it to Stewart. Hand pass down the line to Myers. Dangerfield jumps on the loose footy. Tackling him over the back, winds. Now Dangerfield becomes tackler and wins a holding the ball call. As Wines doesn't release in front of the interchange. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Trent McKenzie's got the tracksuit top on, but Port Adelaide are away, but they haven't yet called the sub. But Trent McKenzie tracksuit top on at the moment. Expect the sub to be made.
Thanks, Koza. He looks like he's done. Hold off in the opening term as Butters goes tearing away and hits up Frankie Evans inside 50. He marks 5 in from the boundary line. He'll kick from about 45 out.
Yeah, I saw McKenzie trying to do his fitness test at quarter-time break, and he didn't look good. He couldn't even really get out of a jog, and then pulled up really early in the test and walked straight to the huddle. So unfortunately he's done. So that Port Adelaide defence under pressure right from the start.
Evans drop punt misses near side. Playing his 15th game, he played 7 matches for Geelong, won all of them. 7-0, and now in his 8th game as a Port Adelaide player, just 2 losses. Hot start to his career, and there's one for your footy grid as a Port Adelaide and Geelong player.
Zach Guthrie with the kick in. Long kick up to the wing. Rowan, big fly from 3 deep. Have it a mark just backward of the logo. Quick kick to Myers. Wide out just forward of the logo. He'll look inside 50, looking for a leading target. And Ollie Henry, the hot hand up forward for the Cats, has got it again. 45 out, 45-degree angle.
It's the same suspects for Geelong getting on there. Grime Myers getting out the back of an experienced player in Darcy Byrne-Jones. So we've seen him play a forward role predominantly this year. Now he's gone down back to play on those nippy high half fours, but a great kick from Myers to Ollie Henry, who's got Bonner.
And he just keeps it going. 4 for Ollie Henry. 2 minutes into the second term. And Geelong have 8. 8-2-50 plays 5-2-32. As I said, 2 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL, Brendan Goddard.
It's an interesting way the game's been played, isn't it, Beach? I don't think any of us expected this kind of a shootout.
No.
Are you surprised that the game's panned out this way? And I would have thought, as the common sports guy watching on, that a shootout would probably favour Port more than it favour the Cats.
Yeah, but then you look at the outs, and they're missing some key posts, both forward of the footy, but it's just Geelong small forwards. That's a mismatch too. Riley Bonner too, that having to play on Ollie Henry, who's probably doesn't spend as much time up the ground as the other two I've been referring to in Myers, even Stengel at times, but and close. But it's a dangerous matchup when you're probably a kick away from the goal mouth at every opportunity, and it's not something that Riley Bonner's used to. He's having to defend.
The ruckman just infringed upon him, Visitini, so he gets the free, and Port Adelaide some go forward out of the middle. Hands it to Houston, long kick out the flank, and there's Marshall. Shook his direct opponent, marks uncontested. Right half forward for the Power.
At least he's allowing that mark to Coney. Just almost gave up on it because he knew he'd got out on him, but at least he's taken it out in the logo. He's going to have to kick this from about 54 metres on a slight angle, so it'd be a really good kick from here.
He's going to pass it off. Hits up Rosie against the boundary line, still at the right half forward and still about 45, 50 out.
And it's near the boundary, but we know down here at Geelong these pockets aren't very deep, so the angle's not as severe as it would be, say, at the MCG or on other grounds.
Towards the city end where the stand is still being built. Some of the seating put in, but still a little way to go. Kicks to the top of the goal square. Visitini down there. Free kick for a hold. It's going Geelong's way. Stewart hung on to. And that marking contest gets it last line for the Cats. Geelong by a game high 18 early in the second term.
Yeah, now kick the last 3 goals of the game, and Pepper didn't come back the required distance. So on the mark, we saw that clarified during the week by the AFL.
Yeah, so something that at a footy club we weren't actually thinking about being a real issue, but sent out the letter and we spoke about it during the week actually on the big screen.
Koning kicks to half forward for the Cats, out the back. Houston, he's bumped off it by Ollie Henry. Spills out towards Burgoyne. And gives it off to Williams, and a left-footed kick out to Drew. Put Adelaide work it out. It is the Cats who lead by 18, the last 3 goals in the game. To lead by that margin early here in the second.
The most regular Port Adelaide player, Willem Drew, over the last few seasons. Gained 65 in a row as he kicks long down the wing. Hits the deck to Coney for the Cats. Hand pass to Max Holmes. Bursts along the boundary line. Kicks inside forward arc. Out the back is Houston. Takes the intercept mark. Ollie Henry slipped over. Now Houston, the dangerous switch. The opposite back pocket for Jonas. Hand pass to Burn-Jones. Chips it to Rosie. Trying to get some run going. They come back to the corridor, and there's Butters, their young starter. Hand pass into the middle of the ground for Burn-Jones, who keeps on moving. Duncan with the chase down tackle. Wins possession back on the wing for the Cats.
And he wants to go quickly. Shanks his kick. It'll bounce to Cameron, forward of the wing, outer side of the ground. Looks into the pocket. Over the head of Stengel. Burgoyne there with him. And Burgoyne spoils it away. A throw in left forward pocket.
Well, the ageing body in Duncan, it didn't look like it was going to get him. And Burns-Jones actually, I think, thought he had him done. And this steadied up to kick it. Got a great chase. Can we call him an old fella?
Yeah.
12-goal opening term. Geelong have kicked the last 3 goals of the match, though. They lead it by 18, and now a free kick. Visitini and Rowan meant to be contesting the ruck. And Rowan is going to get a free. I think it was Butters who was passing through, made contact with what was meant to be the ruckman, and now Gary Rowan's going to be given a gift. 40 metres out, left half forward.
He's played it very well. He was never going to get to the ball, almost took it.
Ran into Butters. It's a vet move, isn't it?
Yeah. Because if he had it ran in a direct line to the ball, he wouldn't have touched Butters.
Gary Rowan, drop punt on its way, misses near side. An ankle injury, barely trained during the week, Gary Rowan, but he's out there tonight. And the Cats' game high lead grows, so up to 19 points. They had 12 goals in the opening term, 7-5 Geelong's way. There were 2 lead changes and 4 times the scores have been level since we started. And now a few alarm bells ringing in Ken Hinkley's coach's box.
Bonner with the long kick in. Marshall coming at the footy, 2 hands to it, doesn't mark. Following up, able to get the clearing kick to he back into the pocket for the Cats. The pitch is just in play and bounces high and out. And a throw in left forward pocket here for the Cats.
Early lead change, second term in Sydney. Giants Stadium. It's now GWS by 3 points, so 5-3 over Sydney, 5 straight. So 3-point lead for the Giants early second term.
Oh, Rowan out bodies Vicentini, snaps on goal. It'll go to the goal square and bounce into the post. Players going down everywhere in the goal square, but a minor score. Gary Rowan, 3 goals in the last meeting between these two sides, but tonight, a little errant early on, 3 behinds early on in this game.
Oh, dangerous kick. Burne-Jones pulls the trigger straight up the middle, turns it over. Stewart centre half forward, hand pass to Holmes, his hand pass, straight back to Paul. Boak had it, Boak tackled, didn't dispose of it properly. Free kick coming back to Duncan, who's got it again for the Cats. Front edge centre square, kicks out for Ollie Henry, leaps up, no mark, comes down to Wines for the power. Hand pass to Burne-Jones. They reload again through centre half back. Visitini lays it off to Rosie. Kicks out to the eastern wing and Marshall takes the mark.
Wants to come infield with his kick. Does so well to Bonner. What can Bonner do with that usually reliable left leg? Brings it towards the western side. Horne-Francis stabs it inside 50. Stewart arrives to fist it away. Now under pressure. There's a high tackle here and a free kick. It'll go to Bruin. We'll have it on the defensive 50 for the Cats and kick back to the Koning, who marks virtually at fullback, and he'll look out towards the Reg Hickey stand wing in the direction of Tui. Through his hands, it comes off the head there of Mead and tumbles out. A throw in beneath that Reg Hickey stand.
So Jackson Mead, the sub, one of those late inclusions. Very late in the piece. He and Burgoyne coming in today for Finlayson and Bergman, the last 2 out with illness. And subbed into the game early in the second term here for Trent McKenzie, so another key defender down. Long kick forward from Tui, but intercept mark Burne-Jones. He almost hands it straight back. Short kick to Marshall, spills to Boak. Port still with it. Hand pass to Rosie, jinking run. Hand pass back to Mead. Short kick's a good one. Finds Drew. Hand pass away to Boak. Sweeps a hand pass to McEntee. 48 out, pokes it to the goal square. Willie Rioli takes the mark just in front of Stewart. And he'll have it from point-blank range to try and knock through his 4th.
Taking out the backhands again, Willie. So 2 from the goal square, but it's pretty good ball movement from Port Adelaide deep in their defence.
4 for Ollie Henry at one end, 4 for Rioli at the other. Straight through it goes. And Port Adelaide, a big one to claw their way back to 14 points. 11 gone second term. The Power 6-2-38. Geelong 8-4-52. Cats by 14. Brendan Goddard, Grandstand AFL.
Because when they did win the ball, Rosé was involved deep in defence. It was a great kick by Darcy Burne-Jones to get it back into the corridor, and then there's a bit of overlap. And then when Marshall took a wing pretty much on the logo on the far side, Geelong was set up really well behind the ball. It was just a kick inside from, I think it was Frankie. What's Frankie's last name again?
Evans.
Frankie Evans. Just to find Boak inside, and then the overlap kind of came from there. Geelong were forced to kind of press and put pressure on the ball, and that's how Rioli finds himself in the goal square taking an unattended mark, or uncontested mark, should I say.
So an equal career high, 4 goals for both Willie Rioli and Ollie Henry. For both of them, equal career high.
On track to kick 8 each.
Yeah. Secondary ball up in the middle. Stanley doing the ruck work opposed to Ollie Wines. Takes it out of the ruck, kick smothered. Now trying to pick it up. Boak trying to do the same. Bursting through Bruin. Gets a handball out. Out into space. Onto a Dersma though. Handball away to Burne-Jones. He'll kick straight into Horne-Francis, who's good enough to go and get it. Handball for Boak. Stewart bears down on him. Boak gets a handball away. Coming through Mead. He's tackled close to the boundary line. And gets a lot of applause, it does, from the Geelong faithful in the Reg Hickey stand. Now they're second most games coached on their all-time list after Chris Scott went past him last week. Geelong by 14 points, 12 minutes into the second term.
Seesawing game in Sydney, so Swans back ahead by 2 points. 8 minutes into the second quarter there against the Giants. Boundary throwing, Stanley knocks it down. Horne-Francis with the footy, tackled, taken to ground. Ball up. Eastern wing, Kadinya Park. It is a beautiful night, 11 degrees. And a nice day, and certainly had sort of worse Saturday nights of the footy in August down in this part of the world, but quite pleasant. And the restart. Was knocked on a number of times. Port eventually, clean touch for Evans. Hand pass to Wines. Handball out in front of himself. Stewart intercepts, hands it straight back to Wines. Tackled by Bruin. Wines held up. Umpire says holding the ball. Second time Wines has been pinged, one on each wing. And a free kick, and it's going to be Atkins who gets up to take it. Turns, heads down to half forward. Jack Henry the target. Jonas knocks it away from him. Stanley kicks it inside 50. Bowes floating forward. Lord spoils. Ollie Henry onto it. Top of the goal square. Hand pass to Jezza. Onto his left boot. Snaps over his shoulder but misses. Behind for Cameron. Geelong by 15. 13 gone in this second term.
Kick in from Burton. Towards half-back, who gets it onto Burgoyne. The button's a little difficult to press down here in Geelong. Atkins in the middle of the ground, onto the footy for the Cats. Now comes out to Bruin. Stanley sweeps a handball forward towards half-forward. Dangerfield fighting after it. Stands up in the tackle. Handball to close. Handball to Jack Henry. Stabs it short, and Myers marks. 35 out directly in front.
Well, it was really good, wasn't it, by Geelong? Again, just making it up, but Port Adelaide having to make a couple of changes and have. Bonner's actually now gone to a wing. Houston's gone to Ollie Henry, which is a concerning matchup earlier I spoke about. Jonas is now on Jack Henry, and Burton has had to go to Cameron. So the coach's box moving a few magnets in Port Adelaide's defence.
Myers with that unique kicking style gets the desired result. And the Cats have the answer again. They're out by 21, 9-5-59. Plays 6-2-38. Quarter hour mark of their second term, Brendan Goddard.
Well, I think it was Jack Henry that just lowered his eyes. It was really smart, really composed, just to find Brian Myers. Just in a little dinky 15, 20-metre kick, who again started high up the contest. Geelong looked like wing, and he's pushed hard, really forward really hard on Darce Burns-Jones, and he just lost him. Kind of got in his blind spot in the corridor and able to impact in front of goal again, as you may mention, with that awkward kicking. He finally got on the end of it. He's so used to giving it off, and as mentioned, being the number one goal assist player in the competition.
Restart back in the middle. Visitini wins it down. Butters just soccers the volley inside the forward 50. Off hands. Spills out in front of Evans. Needs a clean pick up. Radically it crunches him. Ball spits out to O'Connor. Tackled dangerously into the ground, and the ump's all over that. It's against McEntee. And a free kick to O'Connor, back pocket for Geelong. So what are we at? 21 points the margin. 15 gone second term. And kick heads down the line. Henry, that's Jack, comes crashing into Wines. Ball spits free. Bruin has it. Tackled hard, and the ball up. Half forward here for Port Adelaide. 70 out from their goal at the city end. Game high so far is 21 points. Cats Way, where we sit at the moment after a very even and high-scoring opening quarter from the boundary throw-in, back out of bounds as Rosie's pushed out by Smith. And the boundary throw-in. 4 goals for Ollie Henry, 4 goals for Willie Rioli. There's 12 goals in the match in that opening quarter, 7-5 Geelong's way. 2 early lead changes, but Cats pulling away now.
Vicentini wins it down, following up Rowan, getting involved Wines. Shovels out a handball to Butters. He'll backtrack and goes short to Burgoyne. On the edge of their square, wants the switch. Moves it to Burton, hits him in stride. Runs to 60 out. Eyes the goals, goes long right to the goal square. Getting back, Guthrie and O'Connor. They get their hands on it. Prevent the major. Margin back to 20 points. The way of the home side, the Cats. 17 minutes played in this second term.
Smith brings it in, goes short to Kolajasny, back pocket. Long kick up the wedge, and Williams leaps over the top of Jack Henry and Houston and plucks it 3 deep. Nice mark, broadcast wing. It's a good year too. Neat left footer, sends his pass down to half forward onto the chest of Rioli. Having a career night. Trent McKenzie subbed out with a knee injury just after quarter time, so Mead into the game. Oh, and he's dealt with after getting rid of the footy. We've seen those paid all weekend as he kicks to the top of the goal square, and Radikalia takes a pat mark on the intercept. Lays it off to Smith, kicks long to Wally Henry on the wing.
He's outmarked by Burton, who wants to send Port back inside 50. A good kick. And Marshall takes it. 45 out, slightest of angles to the right-hand side.
Well, we're chatting about that beach off there. As soon as someone gets rid of the footy this weekend, feels like no matter how marginal the contact is, that they're hot on at the umpires.
Yeah, I saw the umpire actually. I think the infield umpire, that's what we call it, closest to the play, actually took his eyes off the ball and looked to where the kick was going. So arguably made a mistake, but he looked behind him to see the contact and Rioli on the ground. So arguably couldn't play the free kick because he didn't see it. But they are red hot on it.
He was goalless last week, Todd Marshall. His set shot here is out to the right. Behind. Back to 19 points, Geelong's advantage. Kicked 2 goals to 1 in this second term.
Oh, there's Rioli, who lays a bit of body contact back as Rowan sends it out of the defensive arc up to the wing. Wines wins it back, hand pass to Houston, tackled, taken to ground. Ball up between wing and half forward for Port. Port had 6 changes from the side that lost the showdown. 4 out through illness in the last 24 hours. So they're probably missing 7-8 of their best 22, and now Mackenzie hurt in the opening quarter with a knee. I'm not sure exactly what type of knee injury it is. He had it restrapped, tried to do a warm-up to get back out there, but wasn't to be. Subbed out Mead into the game. Free kick for Wines at the restart. Kicks into the forward pocket. Horn Francis plucks it one hand. And he's right mid outstretched. Pulled it in over the pack. Completes the mark. 35 out left half forward for the Power.
A handy little grab, wasn't it? But he shows a bit when he goes forward. Horn Francis, the ability to mark it overhead for kind of a medium-sized midfielder overall. I think mid-180s in terms of a height, but judged it really well and tends to be a pretty solid kick in front of goal. We're right behind this, so we've got a good view of it.
Socks up. Jason Horn Francis moves in, right foot drop, pumps. Starts out to the right and fades. To the near side, he misses. Close opening quarter, Geelong with a comfortable lead at the moment. 20 gone. Second term, it's the Cats by 18.
Short kick in from Tui. Away to Isaac Smith, who will kick towards the wing after giving it back to Tui. And then Stengel gets it off hands. He'll kick around the western wing. Port's back there. Jonas having a mop up. He'll gather on the bounce. On his left, he'll kick back around the western wing. Boak misjudges it. Pepper bursts onto it. Runs into a cul-de-sac. Gives it back to Boak. Handball away towards McEntee. He'll go long. Rioli's down there. Radikalia in front. Stands tall and marks defensively. Down there for the Cats. 3 goals their lead.
Short kick to DeConey in back pocket. He goes short as well to Smith. Goes back to DeConey. Defensive goal square for Geelong. Loops a hand pass. Away to Kolajasny. Comes out of the defensive 50, and there's Williams again. Picks it off with the intercept mark just forward of the wing.
Good overhead, Williams.
Yeah.
Didn't see much of him, but
Here he is with that left boot. Just perfect pass straight onto the chest of Boak. 52 out. Boak trying to chip it inside 50. Tough one for Mead. And Radikalia punches it out of bounds. A throw in half forward for Port Adelaide. 18-point lead for the Cats. Time on second term. Meanwhile, the other game has been played up in Sydney. We're 17 and a half minutes into the second. The Swans lead the Giants by 7 points.
Throwing it half forward here for Port. Stanley palming it down in front. Ricochets around. Wines comes up with it. Handball away. Zach Guthrie just soccers it into the middle of the ground. Dersma there for Port. Handball away to Drew. Handball to Rosie. Kick charge down. Isaac Smith doing the dirty work. He follows up at ground level. He's tackled quickly. And a ball up to come at half forward here for Port. Geelong leading by 3 goals neat. 22 minutes played, second term.
Up it goes. Dante Vicentini doing the ruck work. Wins their hit out. Trying to soccer it forward. Unsuccessful. Smith had it. Lost it. Butters gives it to Rosie. His kick smothered. Close with the 1%er. Spills to Dangerfield. Surge kick forward. Turns it over. Durton with the intercept mark for Port Adelaide. He's going to go back to Williams. True centre half back for the Power.
And he'll flare his kick out to the western wing. Out in front of Boak. Has to wait for the bounce. Now he's under a little bit of pressure. Handball away to Burn-Jones. Handball back to Mead. Bites off the kick into the middle of the ground. Can't find Dersma. Arriving to help Rosie. Handball back to Dersma. To Butters. Loses it. Under the pressure of the Atkins tackle. Umpire says play on. Onto it Wines. Back to Butters, who will bounce a kick to half forward. Marshall slaps it away. Vicentini beelines the footy. And now the Cats come away with it.
Hand pass from Atkins, wanted Guthrie, intercepted, Boak, gives it to Butters, steps around Dangerfield. Butters looks for the goals, right to the goal square. On the line, Rioli can't get boot the ball and it trickles through. Off the spoil from Bose and a rush behind. To Port, peppering, but haven't been able to make any sort of meaningful inroads on the scoreboard. 23 minutes into this second term, it's Geelong by 17.
Couple of big contests there from both teams. Really good guys putting their head over the ball and doing it the right way. So nothing crude towards one another.
Bose with the kick in. Out towards the wing. There's a shove. And Gary Rowan to get the free kick.
It's been on top here the last 5 or so minutes. Port Adelaide, you may mention they're pressing pretty hard, but haven't managed to hit the scoreboard in a meaningful way.
Geelong taking on the switch. Rowan to De Koning and out to Smith. Wide of the logo in front of the Hickey stand. Comes infield with his kick to Bose. Right on the logo. He'll lie, kick inside 50. Massive pack. Stanley in front. Goes up and brings it down. 45 out. He wants to give it off. Jeremy receives the handball. He eyes the sticks. Cameron, it'll go to the goal line. No mark taken down there. Live footy. Williams picks it up. Handball away towards a teammate in Evans, who's under pressure. Gives it off. And eventually it ricochets out after getting it back from Bonner. There Evans' kick and throw in. 45 around from the attacking goal for the Cats. They lead by 17.
Seen a couple of guys misjudge the read, particularly at that Barwon River end of the ground, looking back towards the city end from the boundary throw-in, spills out the back to Burton, tumbles a kick into open space on the wing. Isaac Smith excels in this scenario, trying to run onto the footy, paddles it out in front of himself a couple of times, got Drew for company, Smith wins it, hand pass inboard to Bruin, slips over, can't trap the footy, Wines had it, lost it, Duncan just punches it straight out of bounds. That's deliberate. I don't think they got much to be aggrieved about there, the home fans. It's a free kick for Burn-Jones. He's going to go short to Burton. Ump says not 15. Kick smothered. Atkins does so well. Back to Burn-Jones. He's caught. Ump says boundary throw-in.
Burton's dropped it. It's fallen on his knee onto his foot and dribbled over the boundary, and they're claiming it. I love it. It's so good. So hard done by.
Boundary throw-in. 17-point lead for the Cats approaching half-time.
Vicentini and Stanley. Vicentini punches it away down the wing. Onto it, Stewart, straight into a gang tackle. Handball to Stanley. His handball too hot for Bruin, now getting involved. Port Adelaide, Rosie with the roll tackle. Like he was rolling a crocodile and holding the ball. Free kick to Port on the wing. Gives off the handball. Dersma running by. Long kick around the boundary line. Close to it. And De Koning going up, punching it away, throw in, 60 around from Port's goal. Geelong by 17. They led by 13 at quarter time, 2 goals to 1 in this second term.
Ian Cohen's on the boundary. Any action down there, Ian?
No, players are pretty spent when they come off. Gary Rowan's had a fair period of time off, so Patrick Dangerfield as well, giving them a spell before the halftime break.
Thanks, Koza. 17-point lead for the Cats. Boundary throwing. Stanley grabs it out of the ruck, kicks in the centre square, but Jonas takes the intercept mark, so Port a chance to reload. He goes back and across to Dylan Williams. The southpaw kicks inside the forward 50. Marshall will run at it, can't complete the mark, spills down to Bose, ripped from him by Evans. Hand pass off his backside to Radicalier, tackled. Ball comes out to Evans again. Got his leg free, shoots goalward, but leaves it short, and Stanley marks eventually down around his bootlaces, almost spilled it. He's got it top of the defensive goal square for the Cats. 27 gone second term, Geelong by 17.
Former teammate of yours, Beach.
Who's that? Bruce Stanley?
Yep,
was.
Back in the day. He goes short to the pocket here. Kolajasny. He'll kick close to the boundary line and very close to it. Radigalia were able to mark it. Well, the fielder players almost gave up on the play, but Radigalia didn't. Right beneath us, he'll kick it around the western wing. Jack Henry in the front of the pack, hands to a dozen mark. Stengel roving, taken down in a tackle. And we'll get a ball up, neutral territory, western side of the ground. Geelong still by 17. High-octane opening term, 12 goals kicked. And it's slowed down in their second term, just the 3 to the way of Geelong, 1 the way of Port. So at half-time, it will be Geelong 9-5-59, leading Port Adelaide 6-6-42. The goal kickers, Ollie Henry, an equal career high, 4 goals. Then singles to Dangerfield, to Myers, to Stengel, Smith and Cameron. While for Port Adelaide, Willie Rioli with an equal career high, 4 goals. And then singles to Horn Francis and Pau Pepper. It is the Cats leading by 17 at the main break.
So just a shorthand on some of that. There was 15 goals in the first quarter and a half, and then we went 15 minutes without a goal to end the quarter. So Cats by 17, as Ben mentioned. The other game that's been played is the Sydney Derby. Saturday night footy. It is the Swans by 13. There's been a heap of lead changes in the first 2 quarters. The Cats by 17 here. The Swans by 13 there. Still 5 minutes to go before half-time. Sydney are perfect. 10 straight. 60. So Sydney 10 straight. They've kicked 5 goals in each of the first and second terms. And then GWS 7-5-47. So a 13-point lead for the Swans at half-time. Earlier today, Hawthorn by 32 points over Collingwood. The Crows by 28 over the Suns. And Essendon held off the might of the West Coast Eagles by a point. So a 1-point victory for Essendon much earlier today at Docklands. The incident in the opening quarter, Trent McKenzie subbed out with a knee injury. Early stages of that second term, so Jackson Mead into the game. Brandon Parfitt the sub for the Cats unused. Half-time beach, Saturday night footy, Cats by 17 points. What have you seen?
Well, I think the last 10, 15 minutes, I know that Port Adelaide were well on top of Geelong, playing in their forward half. They actually had 9 of the last 10 inside 50s. At one point it was 20-23 in Geelong's favour, and ended up 24-29. So they did a good job to get the game on their terms and played in their forward half. They just couldn't quite capitalise in front of goal, kicking 1 goal 6 in that quarter, or 1 goal 5, sorry. So they really hurt themselves with what looked like pretty solid opportunities. But I think from both teams, I made mention after quarter time, I think both coaching groups would tell their players they just need to tighten up defensively. I don't think they wanted a shootout as good as it is for us viewing the game and the supporters, and particularly the Geelong supporters, being their home game and when they're up by a couple of goals at quarter time. But both teams, I think, defensively just were able to slow one another up. It wasn't as free-flowing and uncontested as it was in the first quarter. So they'll both be pleased in that aspect.
So if you're Hinckley, are you happy with the way that the game's turned, even though they're 17 down?
Yeah, well, I think so. I just think with more of that shootout kind of circle work, well, Benny referred to it as a game of basketball. I think it's just left to a bit of luck involved, and generally if you play the game like that for 4 quarters, it's generally just who's a little bit cleaner and tidier with the footy and more effective with the footy. So I don't think it's a sustainable brand that they'd want to play for week in, week out, and generally for 4 quarters. So and when you're in the position Port Adelaide in, clearly they've been really strong defensively, sitting second on the ladder. And Geelong, it's been a trademark of their footy for a very long time, in particular their back six being so stable and behind the ball, and almost like a damn wall at times, just unable to penetrate it. So, just the ability to slow one another up through the midfield in particular. I think as much as Port Adelaide midfielders have found the footy, again, they were dominant in the first quarter, particularly around the contest and through the midfield between the arcs, but they just weren't as effective. We didn't see Butters or Rosie get out the front of stoppages, find uncontested footy or unpressured footy going inside 50. It was more of a rush, jump kick, so the pressure from Geelong and both teams was better around the contest, and it made it just harder for them to be more efficient moving the ball forward. So still Geelong early. Geelong's high half forwards, their small forwards were really prolific and having an impact on the game. And then again, I highlighted the changes that Port Adelaide coaching box in particular made with their defenders, just the matchups in particular, that, Burton then going to Cameron, Jonas going to Henry, which I didn't like that matchup from the beginning. As good as Jonas has been for a long time, just I think the physical attributes that Jeremy Cameron had over Jonas with his agility and his ability to get up the ground and just beat him on the way back. And then Burton's athletically a better matchup. It was Bonner on Ollie Henry, again having an impact early, the first 5 or so minutes in that quarter, and then the changes came. So I think that they made a better case of it, forward of the ball, or behind the ball, should I say, for Port Adelaide, just with the defensive matchups they ended up getting on Geelong's forward. So there's definitely, I think, an emphasis from both teams is to tighten up defensively, and particularly the pressure around the ball. There's a bit of a Russian roulette. Whoever wins it from the stoppage was effectively getting out and looked like scoring. So just to get that support up, I actually saw Geelong provide a lot more support around the ball. They had an outnumber at stoppages quite often, because I think they are concerned just about the speed and the ability for Port Adelaide's midfielders to get out. And I highlighted him before the game in Butters, Rosie, Horn-Francis. I forgot about him before the game. Horn-Francis, even Boak spending more time in there of recent times, particularly in the back half of the year. So that's a real strength of theirs. So take that away from them, and then Geelong looked like they, were going to score every time they won the ball. So both teams did a better job. So I think they'd be happier with it. Port Adelaide probably disappointed just with their efficiency in front of goal and the opportunities they had, particularly in that last 10 or 12 minutes where they dominated the quarter.
And you mentioned at quarter time about those three, the three young stars in the midfield, Butters, Horn-Francis, Rosie, 29 disposals between them in Q1. That number down to 19 in the second quarter, so they were able to stop that a little bit in that term. Just on Port Adelaide, I mentioned a couple of times about the guys they got out, 6 changes from last week. You also look at obviously a couple missing, and then Mackenzie goes down. So probably 7 to 9 players from their best 22 out. And they've had such a stable team all year. How challenging is that in game, and particularly the amount of new faces you have to be able to keep doing what you're used to doing as a team? How hard is it with so many personnel changes to try and play your way?
Yeah, I think history would show that the dominant teams, in particular the premiership teams, have great continuity. So again, don't quote me on it, but I'm going to say most premiership teams generally have kind of a lower use of players throughout the year. I'm going to say roughly in the 30s, kind of low 30s, players used throughout the whole year. So it's definitely a big part of it. So for a team like Port Adelaide, had such a great stretch, it was 11, 12 in a row? When did they win? You guys,
that's a great question.
Man. So to have that kind of win streak, they had great continuity for memory through that period. And now, as a challenge like all teams, is to maintain the health of players is paramount, particularly towards the end of the year coming into finals. So as we know, it's a bit of a throwaway line, isn't it? It's a long year. It is a long year. So just to be able to, I guess, maintenance is a big thing with players throughout the year, just kind of checking their loads. But, even missing a session here and there. But there is the unlucky kind of injuries that you do get, like impact injuries. You can't really help, can you? So Mackenzie looks like, something potentially landed and tweaked a knee. So then you get the soft tissue injuries, which I guess medical staff and fitness staff could arguably say that you could kind of prevent, in a sense, just with their loads and how much science goes into it and analytics in players, and how much they're running and how hard they're working from week to week and through a long year. So
whereas they look at what the collision ones is unavoidable.
Pretty much, yeah. So so it's really important. So great continuity. So it's a challenge their depth in Port Adelaide, what they got. We know they're already thin with key defenders. So the Alir missing from last week with concussion and moving forward, and then now Mackenzie, and then there was the great chase of Radagalia last year to bolster their defensive stocks, Jonas getting on and a few others. So they're really thin. So it'll be a challenge now just towards the end of the year how they manage that.
The thoughts of Brendan Goddard. It is half-time at Cardinia Park. Geelong by 17 points. Port Adelaide kicking 1 goal 5 in that second term, but did start to win a fair bit of the territory battle, so it's set up beautifully for the second half. I mentioned they met not that long ago, round 14. It was the middle of June, so it's less than 2 months ago. Geelong led by 7 at half-time. Port Adelaide kicked 11 goals to 4 in the second half and finished all over the Cats. That was in Adelaide. They'll have to try and do it away from home, obviously, here tonight. Half-time in Sydney, the Swans 11 straight, 66 to half-time. They lead GWS 7-6-48, so an 18-point lead for the Swans at half-time. And the post-Buddy era, McLean with 3 goals, Amati with 2, so they've kicked 5 between them in the first half, the big forwards for the Swans. Second half action not far away. We're keen to hear from you on the SMS 0437 774 774, the SMS number. But first, let's get the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
Hello, this is ABC News with David Rowlands. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has rejected calls to delay, defer or cancel the referendum on an Indigenous voice to Parliament. National Indigenous correspondent Carly Williams has more at the Garma Festival.
In a keynote speech at Garma Festival in northeast Arnhem Land, the Prime Minister has promised to hold the voice referendum this year, but has not announced a date for the vote.
We will not deny the urgency of this moment. We will not kick the can down the road.
Recent polls show support for a yes vote has been trending down, with some warning both publicly and privately that the vote should be delayed.
Western Australia's property industry says it would welcome alleged plans to scrap the state's contentious new Aboriginal cultural heritage laws as a sensible decision. It's understood the state government will make an announcement on the legislation's fate within days, following months of criticism from farming, development and mining industries. Under the laws, some landowners would be required to check for the presence of cultural heritage before undertaking certain activities on their property. However, there are concerns the Act's requirements were too onerous. WA Property Council Executive Director Sandra Brewer says there's goodwill within the industry to get some form of the legislation right for the future.
A lot of stakeholders have put a great deal of effort into supporting the aspirations of the Act, which is to protect Aboriginal cultural heritage. I think it became clear that in its current form, the Act is unworkable.
2 women have been airlifted to hospital in a critical condition after a 2-vehicle crash in far north Queensland. Emergency services were called to Kennedy Highway near Mareeba around 3:15 this afternoon. The women, aged in their 60s and 80s, have been taken to Cairns Hospital. 5 other patients were taken to Mareeba Hospital in a stable condition. An elderly woman has died in hospital 1 week after being hit by a car in Sydney South. The 70-year-old woman was crossing the Princess Highway at Cogra at around 5:15 in the morning when she was struck by a car last Wednesday. She was taken to St George Hospital in a critical condition where she later died. The driver, a 45-year-old woman, was uninjured at the scene and released after being questioned by police. An investigation is ongoing. Former US President Donald Trump has described the latest felony charges against him as ridiculous and says they can only help his campaign to regain the top job in next year's election. Speaking at a campaign event in the southern state of Alabama, Trump poured scorn on the criminal proceedings he now faces, including charges over his efforts to overturn his loss to Democrat Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election.
It's not a legal case. It's an act of desperation by a failed and disgraced crooked Joe Biden and his radical left thugs to preserve their grip on power. They want to do anything they can to preserve it, and we are in their way because we want to bring our country back. Our country has never been so bad.
South Australian protesters have demanded the ban on greyhound racing on the steps of State Parliament today. Last month, the ABC News aired video recordings of greyhounds being kicked and punched at a property southeast of Adelaide. 2 greyhound trainers were subsequently suspended by Greyhound Racing South Australia, while the racing code will also be reviewed by the state government. Ellie Trahair from the Coalition of Greyhounds believes criminal charges are warranted for people violently abusing their racing dogs.
Greyhounds need people like us to speak up for them. They've been abreast for far too long in South Australia, and we're here to change that. We think we should see the end of greyhound racing here in South Australia. It's outdated and has no place in our society.
To sport, and Spain has earned a place in the Women's World Cup soccer quarterfinals thanks to a history-making 5-1 victory over Switzerland at Auckland's Eden Park. Chloe Hart reports.
Spain kicked off the knockout phase in emphatic fashion, producing the biggest ever winning margin in a round of 16. It's also the first time Spain has made it to the quarterfinals. The Spanish started strongly, scoring the opener in just the 5th minute, but quickly gave up an own goal to level the scores 1-1. From then on, there were few Spanish mistakes, up 3 goals at half-time and going on to win 5-1. The victory was watched by a record 43,000 fans, the highest ever attendance at Eden Park for a soccer match in New Zealand's history. Spain will next take on the winner of tomorrow's game between the Netherlands and South Africa.
This is ABC News.
There's a bigger picture to be found, a wider viewpoint. There's more than one side to every story, and you'll find so much more with ABC News Online. Around the world and from wherever you are. Get a bigger picture of the stories that matter to you with explainers, live blogs and analysis. Your news, your way, every day. From Australia's most trusted news source. Download the ABC News app or head to ABC News Online. Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Quick kick to Myers. He'll look inside 50, looking for a leading target. And Ollie Henry, the hot hand up forward for the Cats, has got it again, 45 out, 45-degree angle. And he just keeps it going. Ball for Ollie Henry.
Finds Drew. Hand pass away to Boat. Sweeps a hand pass to McEntee. 48 out. Pokes it to the goal square. Willie Rioli takes the mark just in front of Stewart. 4 for Ollie Henry at one end. 4 for Rioli at the other. Straight through it goes. And Port Adelaide, a big one to claw their way back to 14 points.
Dangerfield fighting after it. Stands up in the tackle. Handball to close. Handball to Jack Henry. Stabs it short. And Myers marks. Myers with that unique kicking style gets the desired result. And the Cats have the answer again.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Sounds from the second term. A 2-goal to 1 quarter for the Cats after the scoring binge that we saw in the opening quarter. It eased up in the second half of that second period, and Geelong lead it by 17 points at half-time. Corbin Middlemass, Ben Cameron, Brendan Goddard on Grandstand AFL, Ian Cohen on the boundary. Earlier today, we had the Hawks winners by 32 points over Collingwood. In the afternoon time slot, it was Essendon by 1 over West Coast and Adelaide by 28 over the Suns. So the Bombers and the Crows stay alive in the chase for the top 8. And meanwhile, for Collingwood, they've dropped back-to-back games. Huge ramifications tonight. Geelong need to win to keep their premiership defence alive and keep themselves in touch with the top 8. If they drop this game tonight, it'll be the first time in 8 years they've lost back-to-back games at Cardinia Park. Meanwhile, for Port Adelaide, they've lost 3 in a row leading in. They're missing a boatload of players. They're missing 6 from last week, 2 out with concussion, 4 through illness, and as many as 7, 8, 9 from their best 22, depending on how far you want to stretch it back. But they trail by 17 the Power at half-time. We might just get a taste of this. James Warple had the chance to catch up with Andrew Mays a short time ago at the MCG after Hawthorn's upset victory at the G, a 32-point win for the Hawks just before the start of the second half here in Geelong. Here is James Warple with Andrew Mays.
James Warple, you played a fair bit of footy now. Where does that rank in terms of wins in your career so far?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. The boys played great today. It's just a four-quarter effort, and we knew Collingwood are so good at coming back, so we knew halfway through the game we're going to have to beat them twice, and credit to us, we went out there and did the plan and got away with the win.
Tell us about your stoppage game today. One point in the last quarter, 16 centre-bounce clearances to 2. It was an amazing performance by that midfield group. Is that something you're focused on in particular throughout the week?
Yeah, it was. I think we've focused on it all year. We've had some good young players going through there, and we're all in, having some really good years. And Ned Reeves has come along really nicely and given us first use. He's so tall and no one can get over him, so it's such an advantage for us. But, we fought tooth and nail in there, and we got rewarded today.
Huge win for Hawthorn, 32 points over Collingwood. James Sicily best of field with 37 disposals and 19 marks in the upset victory. So 2 losses for Collingwood in succession. Felt like we had the game of the season a couple of weeks ago between Collingwood and Port Adelaide, and both teams just been a little off since. Port Adelaide were obviously just a kick short that night and they've bookended it with defeats to Carlton and to Adelaide, and they're trying to arrest a 3-game losing skid here. The other game that's on tonight is up in Sydney. It's the derby between the Swans and the Giants. First game since Lance Franklin's retirement. 5 goals between McLean and Amadi, so they've kicked 5 between them. The Swans 11 straight, leading GWS 7-6, so an 18-point buffer. At half-time, the Swans leading the Giants at Giants Stadium. Unnamed texter, please put your names on them and where you're texting from, 0437 774 774. Why is it that Geelong always wear their away strip for their home games? I don't get it. Please explain. This is my hobby horse, Ben. As you know I love
full
this.
Full method actor in the delivery of that text too.
Yeah. I'll give it a little bit.
You love the jumper clashes, etc. So
it's very simple. So forget the shorts. Back in the day, it was dark shorts at home, light shorts away. What we just need is a full dark team and a full light team. So we have both teams wearing their traditional jumpers. That's why the Cats, because they have a light jumper, often wear the white shorts. Second half underway. Here's Ben Cameron.
Crooked bounce from the umpire favours Stanley. Hooks it down, getting involved. Torn Francis coming through. Atkins for the Cats. Clean pick up on the bounce. Handball away to Bruin. Dribbles a kick around the wing. Bruin follows up. Can't quite gather it. Now he's under pressure. Knocks it out. Umpire says spin it in. Neutral territory on the western wing. 9-5-59, plays 6-6-42, a shootout early. 12 goals in the opening term, and then we had 3 goals in the first half of the second term. We didn't have a goal after that. From the throw in, a holding free kick, advantage paid. Here's Dangerfield bursting away with it, waiting a kick for Cameron, hands to it, doesn't mark, spills out the back. Ollie Henry, handball away to Ron, fluffs his kick, stubs his toe. Picked up there by Burton for the power. Kicks towards Butters, who gives it off to Rosie. Burton's run on. In the bullseye in the middle of the ground. Kicks Port to half forward. Mark taken by Boat. Right on the attacking arc of 50. Backpedals. Now he likes the Rioli lead. And Rioli claims it on his chest. 40 out. A 30-degree angle to the right-hand side.
What you didn't see is Rioli's work rate just ahead of the ball there. Lengthen, excuse me, to get back inside 50 to be a target, and then he led 3 times, and on the 4th one he actually got used. So great work rate sound like Millie. Work rate from Willie Rioli.
He's got a career high 4 goals, an equal career high. Pulls his kick here. Radigalea spoils it towards the goal square. Lucky not to see Francis Evans on the end of it. Rush through for a minor score. Ian Cohen downstairs.
Yeah, Gary Rowan was assessed by the doctor and the physio that went out, but I think he might be just maybe a little bit more red-faced about stubbing the toe. Seems to be firing on all 4 now.
It's good news. Had an ankle complaint during the week. Limited his work on the training track. He's got his hands on the ball here. Tackled on that outer wing. Trying to stand up with it, and the umpire says, I'll have it. So ball up between wing and half forward for Port. Power kicking towards the Barwon River end of this third quarter. Free kick for Vicentini in the ruck. And a tangle with Stanley, and Dante is going to get it. Short kick middle of the ground to Burn Jones, the All-Australian from a few years back. Swings his kick out to Williams. He can give it a whack on the left peg. Pokes it into Rioli. No mark. Not quite. He's got 4 already. Collects. Gives it to Powpepper. Tight angle. Powpepper. Don't tell me. That is unreal. Up against the boundary line, right forward pocket, hooks it back, needed some creative work on the goal line and got it. No one touches it, and through it goes like a magnet to the major opening. And Port Adelaide all of a sudden within 10. Powpepper kicks his second of the night, 3 played third quarter. Port Adelaide moved to 7-7. They trail Geelong 9-5. 3 gone, final third term. Brendan Goddard, Grandstand AFL.
As Williams, it was actually a good inside 50 kick. It just missed Frankie Evans, I think, and then it was Powpepper, but it was a contest on the line from Lord on Radigalea that Radigalea looked like he was just going to take a couple of steps back and punch the ball over the line, but he got back really hard just to spoil. Geelong supporters probably argue that it potentially a free kick because Lord took his eyes off the ball, but Powpepper was good enough just to put in the goal mouth.
Here go, Port Adelaide out of the middle. Rosie, Horn Francis, away to Boak off a step. They've come powering out of half-time, Port Adelaide. It's back to 4 points. 9-5-59 the Cats. Port Adelaide 8-7-55. 4 minutes into this second half on Grandstand AFL. And the boy from Torquay down this way hits the opening goal of the second half.
I actually didn't see that because I was too busy watching the replay of the Power Pepper goal and it came straight from a centre square bounce, and saw Horn Francis get at the end of it again when you come out the front of a stoppage. Geelong's defenders are forced to press and put pressure on the ball, and that's how Boak found himself with a bit of space, about 35 out in front of goal. It was a really good finish off a couple of steps on his right peg. So really good start. You made mention they went on to kick 11.
Yeah, 11 goals to 4.
4 in the second half when they last met, so they've got it in them.
Started like they've been shot out of a cannon again here. Poured out of the middle. Vicentini wins it down. Horn Francis can't control it. Duncan knocks it to Atkins. He's been pinned for a throw. They're getting the whistle too early in this second half. Port first to the footy. Vicentini goes out wide to Williams, who marks 65 out right half forward. They're just about all in the forward 50 for Port. Superb placement. Hits up Butters, and he takes the mark centre half forward, 40 metres out.
Well, the two things that have been evident for mine in this first 5 minutes is Port Adelaide's pressure around the ball, particularly from their midfield. It actually hasn't got over halfway for Geelong, so the game's being played in Port Adelaide's forwards. Just their entries too. Williams has been on the end of 2 of them now. The first one where Power Papa scored off kind of an opportunistic kind of front and square ground ball, but his kick in was near perfect, just over the head of Frankie Evans, and that one Geelong would be really disappointed not manning up Butters.
Zach Butters, drop punt, is good. A 3-goal outburst for the Power in the first 6 minutes of the third quarter, and Porter in front. First time since the opening quarter, third lead change of the night. And it's the Power by a couple of points. 6 gone, third term. 9-7-61. Geelong 9-5-59. Brendan Goddard, Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, what a start. 3 goals in 6 minutes. But again, it's been all Port Adelaide. From the 3 or 4 guys I mentioned leading into the game, the danger players for Geelong. Rosé, Butters involved, obviously hitting the scoreboard then, but Boak involved earlier. Horn Francis coming out of the front of stoppage from a centre square bounce, giving it to Boak. And then just that pressure and intensity around the ball just seriously caught Geelong off guard.
Bounce back in the middle. Stanley down to Atkins. He stands up in a tackle, loses it. Vicentini sockers it off the deck. Socket on them by Wines. Tui will track it back, gathers it half back, wrapped up in a tackle. Handball away. Stewart's under pressure. Port Adelaide swarming. Pepper onto it. Outside is attacking 50. Back feed to handball to Horn Francis. Chips it inside 50. Marshall can't quite. Zach Guthrie worries him out of it and sees it out. A throw in right on the arc of 50 here for Port Adelaide. It's all silver, teal, black and white after half time.
Trent McKenzie subbed out at quarter time with a knee injury. Jackson Mead into the game. Bunch of guys missing with illness too, of course, in the concussion protocols, and Port doing it without them all. For the boundary throw-in, Drew knocks it inside 50. McIntyre collects, hands it to Horn Francis, shoots goal when he's across the goal face, and Radikalia marks in front of the behind post. Port by 2 points. They've kicked the first 3 goals to start the third, only 8 minutes old on Grandstand AFL as Radikalia goes short to Stewart in the back pocket.
Stewart kicks out in front of a running Holmes. Has to just wait for it slightly. Allows Horn Francis to come stand the mark. Holmes chips it short. Mark taken by Stanley. On the wing here, the Cats. The kick is shocker. Cold turnover. McIntyre drops it. Port Adelaide streaming forward after he regathers. Kicks into the pocket. Right there, Radikalia swirls it away from Marshall. Follows up. And now will kick down the western wing towards Vicentini. He swirls it away. Port Adelaide get it through Dersma. On the wing. Handball to Horn Francis. Handball away to Mead. He'll kick to half forward. Bouncing ball for Bonner. Steps his man on his non-preferred right. Still likes his chances. Stewart on the last line. Spoils it away. Lord follows up. Stewart gets a little bit of support. Lord slaps it out. Straight to the boundary line. Umpire says deliberate. Free kick going the way of Stewart and the Cats in the left back pocket. Caught by 2 points, 4 lead changes on the match.
Mitch Duncan not too familiar, Beach, with Riley Bonner. Game 93, just a left footer.
Yeah, well, goes on his right. A bit of dust came off it. I haven't seen him use it.
Stewart out towards Tui, kicks across the half-back line. Guthrie got horizontal in the air, heavy landing. Cats win the footy anyway. Colin Jasney, hand pass to Myers from the logo, eastern wing, kicks in the middle of Kidinya Park. Stanley marks. Stanley looks inside forward 50, kicks it eventually. Rowan at the front, can't complete the juggled mark. Falls to Houston. Rowan tackles him and a ball up 30 out from the Cats' goal. It is a 2-point lead for Port Adelaide. They've kicked the last 3 in the game and the only 3 goals in the first 10 minutes of the third. And we'll get Koza to keep an eye on Zach Guthrie after that heavy landing.
Hadn't kicked 3 consecutive goals in the match, Port Adelaide. Clearance here for Port, picked up by De Koning, attacking edge of the square. Handball to Stanley, chip inside 50. Stengel clattered into, can't take the mark. Coming through, able to get a handball away, Dersma. Straight to Kolajasny. Wide out, right half forward for the Cats. High ball to full forward. Punched away. And they'll be there to mop up Port Adelaide through Burn-Jones. To Jonas, and a kick towards half-back. And now they might be away down the western wing if it'll stay in, it won't. Holmes halves the contest with McEntee. And a throw in between wing and half forward here for the Cats.
Reece Stanley there. It was a great bit of ball movement again. Brian Myers, small forward, being involved. Change angles, brought it back a little bit to the ground. Reece Stanley just needed to roll, get it going forward. Jeremy Cameron found 10 yards on Tom Jonas.
Stanley wins the hit out. Vicentini follows up. Hand pass to Myers, though. Somehow got it out as he's being tackled to Bowes. Tumbles a kick inside 50. They all hit up. Ball spills out the back. Burgoyne there. Hand pass to Jonas. Got rid of Rowan. Off his right boot. Pokes the pass to half-back. Holmes gets in front of Drew. Takes the intercept mark. And Max Holmes has it 45 from home. 3 in from the boundary line.
Good 2 or 3 minutes here from Geelong, just kind of getting that momentum back, or trying to at least, from Port Adelaide, who was so dominant in the first 5 or 6 minutes, just playing the game in their forward half, set up really well behind the ball and pressure on the ball. Most important thing out of their forward 50 is great from Geelong's small forwards.
From their favourite spot on the ground, Max Holmes. His kick is to the top of the goal square. Pack forms. Burgoyne punches it to the safety of the boundary line. Out it goes. Forward pocket for the Cats. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, Zach Guthrie stays on the ground. He's just moving to right half forward now as part of that defensive press, but the doctors are just having a look at the way he landed, just checking the head in case there's an issue.
Forward 50 stoppage for the Cats. Stanley to the front, hooking it down with the left. Trying to get onto it, Tui. Knocked away from him. And out of play, throw in. Right at the elbow of 50 in the boundary line. Off by 2 points. The opening 3 goals of this second half. Geelong in attack though. Stanley winning the tap down in front. Duncan. Handball in behind Myers. Has to go back and get it. Tackled by Burton. Holding the ball. And Port Adelaide hold up in defence. Burton at halfback.
Burgoyne. Burton switches play out towards the wing. And Burn-Jones is up. What a bees in this team. A free kick for Darcy Burn-Jones on the wing.
Needs to switch it.
He's going to. Back into the middle of Kidinya Park. Horn Francis marks. Here's Burgoyne. Receives the handball. Kicks to half forward. Rioli takes the mark. Right on the 50. He's got Marshall deeper inside. Hits him. And he takes the mark left half forward. He'll kick from about 40 out.
A great bit of ball movement. Just getting the kick back inside into the corridor. Horn Francis giving the handball off to your halfbacks.
Oh, he's going to go shorter still. Bonner just marks in front of the pressure from Kolajasny. Barely went 15. Improves the angle. Still a 45-degree one. The most popular angle in footy. He'll kick from about 45 out.
Most popular angle?
It's out of all the angles we mention, I think 45 degrees is the one that we mention the most. we don't mention too many that are 56 degrees.
Yeah. I give 30 a bit of a run.
Yeah. But again, good bit of ball movement. Just takes those sagging defenders of Geelong out of play when you're able to change angles, get the ball in the middle of the ground.
Bonner drop punt. It's out to the left. He's lucky to score to behind.
I don't know.
Port turn momentum late in the second quarter. They've hit the scoreboard here to start the third, so Power lead it by 3, 14 gone third quarter.
Short kick in from Stewart. Duncan in the pocket, chips it to Bruin. Cats still in their defensive arc. 3 points, the Power ascendancy. Bruin wants to switch. Left back pocket to right back pocket. Stewart marks. Now looks out to the wing. Tui goes up and gets it. On the Reg Hickey stand wing. Nothing he likes initially. So away to kick for Duncan, leading into a hole. Swing the logo on the boundary line. Duncan, kick to half forward, trying to find Stanley. Getting back, Wines marks at left half back for Port. Adelaide back with it. Only Wines, he'll kick up to the logo. Marshall in front, brings it down, quickly moves it on. Handball away to Evans. Gets away from a Bruin tackle. Now he looks deep. Rioli's down there. Stewart's there with him. Nick favours Stewart. Stewart will go and get it in the left back pocket and repel with the kick to Cameron on the wing.
Hugs it to his chest. Half back. Oh, looks inboard. Not a great kick for Bruin. Pepper laying a bit of pressure. Comes down towards Bowes. Hand pass to Cameron. Goes back in, gets it. Gives it to O'Connor. Hand pass to Holmes. Back to Bruin. Hand pass over the top to Guthrie. He feeds it further forward in front of the benches to Close. Links up with Ollie Henry. Receives the hand pass. Feeds it forward to Stengel. All by hand down to half forward. Close. Gives it to Dangerfield. Runs around Burton. Great kick into the corridor. Collected by Bowes. Goal! Snatches back the lead for the Cats. The run and carry by hand and the goal on the end of it from Jack Bowes. Fourth lead change of the night. Geelong by 3, 10-5-65, Port Adelaide 9-8-62, 15 gone third quarter. Brendan Goddard, Grandstand AFL.
It was actually Bowes that impacted the play on the half back flank for Geelong, and I watched him post that, ran a really good pattern corridor as Geelong quite literally were in a handball chain for about 60-70 metres, and it was Paddy Dangerfield confronted with pressure, which I'm not sure who it was, but just needed to keep him boundaried, if anywhere, not let him come back inside. And when he was forced,
I think it was Burton.
It was Burton, yeah, confronted with pressure, just allowed him back into the corridor, which he then found or saw Bowes, who had been arguably on the whole time since they started that handball chain off the half-back flank, and then gets rewarded for some really good run and smart patterns offensively.
Dangerfield played a role in getting Bowes to the club and lays a goal on a platter for him there. Here is Dangerfield out of the middle, bursting away with the footy. 55 out, low kick towards goal. Jonas gets a hand on it, Burton gets back and soccers it through. And ensures it's only a minor score. Cats out by 4.
Sydney by 19 points, 8.5 minutes into the third term, Sydney Derby. They've missed, by the way. They're 12 goals won there, so the first 11 goals straight for the night. Out of the defensive arc, Burton hits up Horn Francis against the boundary line eastern side. Hand pass to Bonner. Short kick down to Lord. Oh, crashes into Radagalia. Ball spills through. Free kick. Oh, it's going to Port Adelaide. Radagalia took out Pau Pepper before that, according to the umpire. And
yeah, that's right. That's actually a free kick.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
And Pau Pepper will get it 60 metres out, left half forward. 4-point lead for Geelong. Pau Pepper kicks into the man of the mark. Ricochets towards Wines. He becomes the tackler on Bruin. Bruin doesn't release the footy. Up says all okay. Ball up. 45 out from the Port Adelaide goal. Ian Cohen is on the boundary. Goes up.
Yeah, Jackson Mead might come on looking like a bit of a prize fighter. He's got a gash under the left-hand eye that they've had to deal with.
From the ball up, knocked down by Stanley. Goes again at ground level. And he's rolled in a tackle coming from Willie Rioli.
So Parfitt's just been subbed on. Maybe Cozy can give us a bit more info. But look, Jack Henry was a little bit kind of...
possibly out of the game. Jack Henry.
Yes, he's putting on the jacket just looking at the replay. So Jack Henry looked a bit proppy earlier in the game.
All pinballing around on the wing. Dersma able to feed it out for Port. Away to Rosie. High kick inside 50. The Koning drops the mark. Able to recover at ground level. Bowes under pressure. Coming through Pau Pepper. Now away to Ollie Lord. And eventually it spills away to Tanner Bruin. They can repel for the Cats.
Gets up Myers, marks against the boundary line in front of Dersma. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, Jack Henry's had some foot issues all tonight. They've been dealing with it, but he's been okay with it. But now he's off sitting in the back row, and Brandon Parfitt gets his opportunity.
Just on that, I mean, he had 3 foot surgeries, I believe, in a 18-month period, so that's really concerning.
Short to Bowes, long kick into centre square. Duncan made it look clean. Takes the mark, lays it off to O'Connor. His kick touched on the way through. Burgoyne over the shoulder hand pass, got it to Burton. Cruising, kicks it out on the full. And momentum has turned here. The Cats back on top. They lead the game by 4. 10-6 to 9-8. We had a lead change earlier in the quarter after Port Adelaide kicked the first 3 goals of the turn. O'Connor goes back to DeConing. DeConing across the half-back line to Stewart. Switches on. Runs onto the bouncing footy. They're going to try out the eastern side. Short kick hits up Tui. Takes the mark. Cats by 4 points. 20 gone third term.
Cats with it on the wing. Zach Tui, the Irish games record holder. He'll go back to halfback. Radigalia sliding in. Gives it off to Stewart. Geelong leading by 4. Stewart through halfback. Kicks out towards Izzy Smith. Boak in front of him. Both hands on it. No mark taken. Spills to Duncan. Tackled quickly. Taken high. Free kick. Free kick going the way of Duncan and the Cats. Duncan, 2 kicks from home. Sets it up towards full forward. Dersma taking the defensive mark at fullback. He'll kick laterally, dangerously, but it finds its target in Rosie. Rosie will look out towards Butters at halfback, and he takes a nice contested mark.
The chant gets up and keeps on moving for Port Adelaide. Kicks in the middle of the ground. Wants McEntee. Sat it on his head. Guthrie spoils it away down to Parfitt. He's tackled and a ball up. Inside the centre square. 4-point lead for the Cats. Corbin, Middlemass, Pan Cameron, and Cohen on the boundary. Brendan Goddard, your call team on Saturday night. On the restart, Tui is tackled immediately by Bonner. Thrilling game so far. The Cats led by as many as 21 just before half-time. Port Adelaide the first 3 goals of this third term, and now Geelong the last to go back in front. Rosie, hand pass on the outskirts of the stoppage to Bonner. Kicks down to half forward. Hand on it from Lord, no mark. O'Connor a fumble. No, Evans a big chase down tackle, but he got it away. Geelong still with it. Guthrie to DeConing. Short kick to Bruin. Hand pass inside to Parfitt. He steps around Butters.
And then he runs into Rosie. Gets a handball away. Off to Atkins. Cats down the wing. Here's Myers. Taking a bounce. Taking a second. He'll cut back infield. Short kick to Rowan. Cats out everywhere. Has to get it on. Dangerfield. He'll juggle the mark. Nearly drops it. Claims it in the end. 40 out. 10 in from the boundary line. In the right forward pocket.
Again, really good use of hands from Geelong off the half-back flank, and Parfitt was involved a number of times. And then Ryan Myers, who we've seen on that far wing, it's a Reg Hickey stand, just cut back inside a number of times to open up the field, that time finding Gary Rowan, and then on to Paddy Dangerfield, the captain. Gary Rowan actually had the opportunity to keep coming open side and find Bowes, who had a bit of space, probably at 40 out, shot in front of goal.
Socks up, hair ruffled, kick across the face and punch through. Down there by Vicentini. Minor score. Cats out by 5 points here on Grandstand AFL. 22.5 into the third term.
Both subs made, so McKenzie out of the game and quarter time with a knee injury, and now Jack Henry out, tactical sub in the second term. Long history of foot issues, of course, as Burton goes to Burn-Jones. Long kick in the centre square, punched away down to Atkins. Under pressure, flares it to the flank. Stengel keeps it alive. Short kick inboard, hits up Myers. Takes the mark, 45 out, left half forward.
There's a gutsy kick in from Burton, who hit it up the middle, then continued on to get the handball, but then was under pressure, and a forced long kick down the middle of the ground just exposes you back the other way. It was actually Marshall from Port Adelaide that got a fist on. It went about 30 metres towards the long goal, and they just swooped on it.
Oh, Myers shakes Burn-Jones on the mark, kicks goalward but misses. Out to the left. He veered out to the right as he always does, and he knew he had Burn-Jones on his feet, drew him on the mark, but couldn't finish. to try and create a real YouTube highlight. And a behind in the end for Myers. So a 6-point lead for Geelong. Time on third quarter.
Williams with the kick into the pocket. Burton long to the wing. Radaglia contesting. Spills down to Dangerfield. Cats back with it. Goes back by hand to O'Connor. Who kicks to centre half back, and Zach Guthrie marks. Spins the Sherrin in his hands. Kicks laterally. And the mark taken there by Stewart. Everything in front of him. He'll look down the edge of the square. Dangerfield. Good mark overhead. Gives it off to Smith. He'll chip into the pocket. Cameron creates separation. Can't mark. Jonas picks it up off the deck. Handball straight to Myers. Cats back on it. Chaos ball towards full forward. Burgoyne gets back for Port. Knocks it down. Gathers. Gives it away to Dersma. And releases Butters with the handball.
Off he darts. Takes a bounce. Hand pass away to Dersma. Drew 3 Geelong players. Swings his kick along the half back line. And Bonner takes the mark left half back. 6-point lead for Geelong. Port Adelaide led earlier in the quarter, having kicked the first 3 goals of this third term. Bonner, short kick down the wing. Still no clean pick up. DeConey had it, lost it. Horne-Francis is clean. Collects, runs into trouble, lost it. Bowes, away to Rowan. Hand pass to Atkins, off and running. Has a bounce, high half forward, kicks inside 50. Burn-Jones at the drop. Takes the intercept mark, half back for Port.
Wants to switch, gives it a little too much air, but Boak's able to mark. Under a little bit of closing pressure from Holmes. Kicks towards the wing. Drew takes it. Runs his measure. Now kicks up forward of the wing. Going up. The mark taken in the end by Evans, the former Cat. Frankie Evans. He'll come infield with his kick. Towards Butters, who looks for a leading target. And popping up in the hole. Mark taken on the lead by McEntee.
We knew he was a good player, Beach. He's gone from being a really good prospect to being, top handful guys in the league, Zach Butters, in 12 months.
Yeah, but it was a kick. Yeah, it was a good contest for Frank Evans, but don't forget Butters was actually involved in the initial play. Had the courage to take off down the corridor, which got the ball in motion again. And but that kick from Frank Evans just opened up the game to Butters, and then he lowers his eyes.
McEntee will load up from outside 50. It won't have the legs. It goes towards the line, and Marshall in the pack somehow comes down with it on the behind line, and will go back in the left forward pocket to try and snatch back the lead. Todd Marshall will arc out and put the power back in front, or draw them level at least. 10-8, 68. Each of 2 late in the third here on Grandstand AFL. Brendan Goddard.
Geelong got one earlier on the line, didn't they, with Ollie Henry, and it's just Radaglia not finding, just losing body, should I say, on the replay, and just contesting in the mark, which allowed Marshall to get a bit of a run and jump at it, which has got a little time spent as a defender. I know you can't allow a key position player to have a run and jump at the footy from any club, no matter who it is. But again, it was a kick, open up. Frankie Evans just come back inside to Butters. They had the shot on goal, which gave him a really good look. But again, it's just that attitude not to play straight line footy. So Frankie Evans could have gone back and kicked it to the top of the goal mouth, but that's where Geelong defenders are all waiting.
Half at first, disposal back in the middle to Atkins, links up with Holmes, kicks to centre half forward, through the hands of Cameron. He got a shove straight in the middle of his back. It's against Houston.
It's one man I was just about to mention and thinking of, but he hasn't had much of an impact after that first quarter. So Burton's had the job on him predominantly, but there's times Jonas now spending a bit more time on him in this quarter, so they've both done a good job for the last 2 quarters. But someone that would be looking at his own performance and saying, I haven't touched it really for 3 quarters.
Kick the one so far tonight. Jeremy Cameron on the horn. Oh, geez, no one's touched that. That is incredible. There is a pack of 10. No one touched the footy coming in, and as it enters the goal line at around shoulder height, there was 3 or 4 Port Adelaide players standing behind the goal line.
I reckon they've punched it, but it's gone over the line.
There is no guarantee they have stopped this from going through for a goal.
This is a really
This is incredible.
This is initially, I'm going to say it's going to rely on the umpire's soft call, but this would be so lazy. And I'm going to say Kenny Hinkley get too animated or angry this year because they've been going so well, but literally when the ball was in the air 15 metres out the sign's gone, and players literally just gave up on it.
It's inexplicable. There are about 7 or 8 players that have passed by, and then Burne-Jones and Williams right on the goal line. Burne-Jones has got his fist to it. The question is, has the ball already travelled over the line? He's in a little wrestle with Close. There is no way this should be...
No. So yeah, right, Benny. So he's stuck his fist over in front of the line. Right. And it's actually hit his palm of his hand and gone straight down, which could be misleading.
So the score should count, shouldn't it?
Across the back of the goal line. Decision on the scoreboard.
So punched over the back of the goal line. So there's the confirmation it'll be a behind. It really shouldn't have been a score. The height and the angle in which the ball was coming in on, in the end, it's just 1. And we'll keep note of that score because it is a go-ahead one in the game. Geelong by a point at three-quarter time. Geelong 10-9-69, Port Adelaide 10-8-68. Just doesn't matter how many games you watch, Beach. There's always something you feel like you haven't really seen before or in that kind of manner. 10-9 to 10-8. Geelong by 1, having led the game by 17 at half-time. The goal kickers 4 for Ollie Henry, 1 each for Cameron Smith, Bowes, Stengel, Myers, Dangerfield. While for Port Adelaide, Rioli has 4. 2 to Horn, 2 to Paupepper, and then singles for Horn Francis, for Boat, Butters and Marshall. It is set up perfectly. Geelong trying to remain in touch with the top 8, and Port Adelaide trying to defend their place in the top 2, missing a host of stars. This is Grandstand AFL. We're coming at you from a whole lot of angles. You can hear it, of course, through ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital, and through the Listen app. Meanwhile, the other game tonight, it is Sydney by 12 points. Time on in the third term, so the Giants hanging around. Sydney Derby, you can hear that game through the ABC Listen app. Look out for the AFL button. It is AFL Extra button that you're searching for to listen to the Sydney Derby, your choice of 2 games tonight, as you've been able to do all season through the ABC Listen app. Three-quarter time here at the Cattery, Cats by 1. This is Grandstand AFL.
What's the best thing in the world that's also on the ABC Listen app? The footy! This season, get your footy live and ad-free on the ABC Listen app.
Right through for a goal.
AFL, NRL, men's, women's. Whatever you fix, we've got you covered.
She's got it. Bye-bye. See you later.
Every goal, try, mark and tackle. Called by ABC Sports' expert commentary team.
Set. Bingo.
AFL and NRL, live and ad-free. Get it on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Kick out to Williams on the left peg, pokes it into Rioli, no mark. Not quite, he's got 4 already. Collects, gives it to Paupepper, tight angle. Paupepper, don't tell me. That is unreal. Up against the boundary line, right forward pocket, hooks it back. Needed some creative work on the goal line and got it.
Here go, Port Adelaide out of the middle. Rosie, Horn-Francis, away to Bocock a step. They've come powering out of half-time, Port Adelaide. It's back to 4 points.
Zach Butters, drop punt, is good. A 3-goal outburst for the Power. And Porter in front. Gives it to Dangerfield. Runs around Burton. Great kick into the corridor. Collected by Bowes. Goal! Snatches back the lead for the Cats.
McEntee will load up from outside 50. It won't have the legs. It goes towards the line. And Marshall in the pack somehow comes down with it. Todd Marshall will lark out and put the Power back in front or draw them level at least.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Geelong by a point. Three-quarter time as we turn for home. There's been 4 lead changes in the game, 2 in the first half, 2 in the second. And the score has been levelled on 5 different occasions since we started. It's been a thrilling night down at the Cattery, and it is set up perfectly, Brendan Goddard, for a massive final term. Geelong by 1 at three-quarter time.
Yeah, what a start by Port Adelaide in that quarter. I mentioned their pressure, their intensity around around the stoppage, around the contest, and there was their stoppage work early that actually got them on top. Play the game in their forward half, their efficiency going forward, their ball use. I've talked about a number of times. Geelong didn't have an inside 50 for the first 3 or 4 minutes. It was all Port Adelaide. There was an opportunistic goal there from Powell Pepper. Good work on the line from Lord, and then got a number of really good looks and good shots on goal just by their ball use, changing angles, getting it to the open side of the ground, which I may mention, and I don't want to get too technical, but Geelong have been so good at in particular their defenders just reading the play and reading the ball up the ground and actually getting in line with it and providing support. Aerial support in particular, they're so good at intercept marking, helping one another out in a contest. But and they're really good when you do play straight line footy. So what I mean is when you don't change the angle in offence and you don't change direction of where the ball's going forward, it's too easy for defenders and a really good team defence and back six like Geelong to read where it's predominantly going most of the time. So Port Adelaide have done and did a good job that quarter, just changing the angles and then taking out the strong position of the key defenders and defenders in general for Geelong, which makes them defend more. Find the open side of the ground for Port Adelaide. Their forwards are doing a really good job at making Geelong defenders really defend them. And then they got on top there through the midfield by their stars. Zach Butter's quarter was outstanding. Connor Rosé early. Horn France, I made mention, both hitting the scoreboard. They're all having an influence, so we're all set up for a great last term. Can Geelong hold on to their finals hopes?
A heap to play for the Cats to try and keep their season kicking in for Port Adelaide to defend their spot in the top two. With whatever's left of their lineup, as Butters wins it in the middle, but he's retreating. Kicks out wide, looking for Mead. Now he's outnumbered. It's Duncan, knocks it away to Holmes. Middle of the ground for Geelong. High up and under to centre half forward. Burton with the climb. No mark, falls down to Burgoyne. He's lost it. Ollie Henry collects, tackled, ball up. Centre half forward for the Cats. Geelong by a point, 30 seconds into the final term. Meanwhile, up in Sydney, it is the Swans by 11 points, 28 gone, third quarter.
Umpire puts it up. Rowan trying to take it out of the ruck. Clearing kick coming from Jonas. Onto it, Zach Guthrie. Gets a kick away as he's ragdolled. Now it spills away onto it, Frankie Evans. He'll snap the power to half forward. And Powell Pepper juggles it and marks. Inside the centre square. Has men on. Marshall is one of those. Tries to get it to him. And he gets the right under Koning. Marshall marks 35 out, 45-degree angle, right-hand side.
Well, again, it was that change of angle. I don't actually think that was deliberate, but just that screw kick back inside to Powell Pepper because Stewart, again, was in line with the footy. He was the spare for Geelong. Happened naturally, but then it just took him completely out of play. And then Marshall, who was on that skinny side of the ground in line with the ball, worked back really hard to get inside 50 and had a bit of isolation on O'Connor, who's generally not a key defender.
Kicked the last goal of the game to draw Port level. This time he puts them in front. 2 for Todd. And the Power are out by 5 points. 11-8-74 plays 10-9-69. 2 minutes travelled. Final term grandstand AFL.
They're doing such a good job, Port Adelaide, at the start of quarters. If you're going to get the job done down here in Geelong, it's important to start the game really well, but particularly leading into the last quarter, when you're down by a couple of points, is to start well, because as soon as Geelong get on top, the crowd get involved and their confidence is unwavering just to get the job done down here. So coming off a loss, obviously, last week against Freo, there'll be a little bit of seed of doubt in their mind where they can get the job done in the last quarter.
Port back in front, 5th lead change of the night. Horn Francis out of the middle. Short kick to the wing. Butters clever, didn't take possession, whacked it on. Now a pack forms, high half forward for Port. Umpire circles. Calls for a ball up. A game of footy, 12 goals in the first quarter, 7 goals to 5 Geelong's way. 2 early lead changes. We've had 3 in the second half. Game's been level on 5 different occasions after we started. As Evans, from the restart, Mead soccers it inside 50, picked up by O'Connor. He's tackled straight away by Ollie Lord. grandson of Alistair Lord, of course, Brownlow medalist, champ of the Geelong Football Club. Up it goes, centre half forward for Port. Stanley wins it down to Dangerfield, and Generation next. Butters just rips him to ground in a heavy tackle. And another stoppage, ball up 40 metres out from the power goal.
Different weight classes. Danger and Butters. Stanley down to Boat. Handball away to Pepper to Wines. Coming through his quick shot. Is missing left. Port Adelaide out by a goal. 11-9 plays 10-9. Early stages of the fourth.
Both teams 11 and 8, so 11 wins, 8 losses in final quarters this year. So no distinct advantage, no difference, no record between both teams in final quarters. 6-point lead for Port. Gee, big lift there from Vicentini to Ruckman as he jumped up in the air but gave away a free kick. Unrealistic attempt. The big fella is slow to rise too, picking himself up off the Cardinia Park turf. Free kick for Stanley at half-back. Short, dangerous, kicks a turnover. Drew takes the intercept mark, looks for Lord, who marks centre-half forward. And Ollie Lord will have to kick from just outside 50, but he's virtually straight in front.
Jeez. You can't defend that. So Stewart's trying to get involved offensively on the open side of the ground, and when a turnover short gone in line with the footy comes, he's caught out trying to get involved and get Reece Stanley to switch the ball. It was Lord that got back inside 50. He could have arguably given it to his ex-captain in Travis Boak to run inside and have a shot from 35. Now he's going to back himself.
He gets close to the man on the mark. He gets underneath it, but he misses out to the left and behind. A 7-point lead for Port Adelaide. I'll make this their biggest lead of the night to give you an idea that they've chased the game for large periods. So Port 11-10, Geelong 10-9, 5 gone final quarter, grandstand AFL.
With the power all over the Cats again. Start this last quarter just like they started the third term.
Izzy Smith, eyes up the middle, kicks right into the middle of Cardinia Park, punched away by Jonas. Onto it, Marshall at half forward for Port. Slick hands to Wines, to Rosie. He eyes the goals and hits the inside of the padding on the left-hand goalpost. Very nearly. 8 points Port's lead. The Geelong crowd trying to lift their team.
Kolodjasny on the kick-out, drives it up to the wing. They all miss it. Off hands and spills through to Bowes. He gives it to Myers and says, let's trot. Off on a run. 2 bounces. Hand pass to close. Handball to half forward. Rowan on the run. Kicks for the goal square. Wanted Cameron. No mark. Contact from Houston. Free kick Cameron. It's coming back to Jezza. He'll get it in the goal square.
Oh, that's a big call from the umpire. He had eyes on the ball the whole time until he went to spoil it.
Cameron from point blank range drives it through. And it's back to a 1-score game. 6.5 gone final term. Port's lead cut to 2. The Power 11-11, 77. Geelong 11-9, 75. The game's alive. 7 gone final term.
Take away the free kick, how good was it? And the ball movement and the hands from Geelong. Again, the small forwards. I don't remember seeing a game where it's happened so frequently and efficiently from the same guys being involved. It was Brian Myers, it was Close, it was Gary Rowan. But linking up with hands and when they won the ball back, they actually had nothing to go to. So Jeremy Cameron gets on his bike, he lengthens, but they just buy time for the other forwards to get back in play with the use of hands and using the outnumber around the footy. And arguably Gary Rowan should have finished 35 out the side angle and took the risk to get it to Cameron.
Back to 2 points. Rosie with the clearance, high ball inside 50 for Port. Stewart getting back, takes the defensive mark. Now wants to bring it to the western side of the ground. Trying to find Izzy Smith out there. He knocks it to his own advantage. Soccers it on. Myers comes up to help. Handball back to Smith. Smith gets onto his left. Kick smothered there by Mead. Ricochets away straight to Stanley. Handball to Rowan. Close to the boundary line. Guthrie wants it. He sees it out. And we'll get a throw in on the western wing. Still, Port Adelaide lead by 2. Ken Hinkley back in Geelong. Played 121 games for the Cats, including the losing 92 GF, trying to take them down tonight.
Stanley wins the hit out. Power Pepper the clearance. Kicks to centre half forward. Marshall! Touched on the way through, said the umpire. Marshall trying to get rid of it. De Koning tackles him and a ball up centre half forward for Port. Marshall thought he had it. And a ball up centre half forward for Port Adelaide. They lead the game by a couple of points. From the restart, Guthrie kicks it in the middle. Dursman drops the mark. Banks bodies with Myers. Ball comes out to Ollie Henry. Surge kick forward and Jonas takes the intercept mark. Centre half back for Port.
Stabs it short to Williams. Defensive edge of the square for Port. Power by 2. Williams lateral. Short kick to Burgoyne. Second generation power player, socks up, looking like a Burgoyne. He kicks up the wing, and Ratugolea marks. Out points Ollie Lord. Has it at half back for the Cats. Ratugolea will look to the western side of the ground, trying to wait it for Dangerfield. Takes a good mark, runs away with it, gets it on the boot. High ball inside 50 for the Cats. Cameron! Out bodies Jonas and claims it. 40 out, 45-degree angle, right side for a left footer.
I may mention we haven't really seen him since the first quarter, and again, great players. They've got great self-awareness and self-assessment, that knowing that he hasn't really had an impact on the game, and then I know they got a free kick in that early in this quarter and slot it from the goal square, but putting himself in position now to impact the game.
Trying to kick one with a high degree of difficulty across the face and a behind. It halves Port Adelaide's lead. Back to 1 point Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, conditions now much colder and there's a lot of moisture on the ground, so watch for the players handling. We've already seen some spilled ball, and Jack Henry is very forlorn sitting in the back row.
Thanks, Koza, subbed out in that third quarter. McKenzie out of the game at quarter time. Burton one way then the other. Finds Burn-Jones back pocket. Kicks to Marshall. Marks at half back. He's held up by Parfitt on the mark. Hump says it's all okay. Todd Marshall. Dangerous kick. Turns it over. Myers takes the intercept mark. Short to Parfitt. Head pass to Bruin. Centre half forward for the Cats. Back to Myers. A fumble. Regathers. Hits Duncan. Duncan marks 45 out, just right of centre.
He hasn't turned his back on it, but he had both Henry, Rowan off at a lead, just to gain another 15 metres and have a better shot on goal. He's gone back himself. Sensing the moment, I feel.
A 1 point game. Mitch Duncan to put the Cats back on top. He dumps it. The Cats claw back in front. Lead change number 6. And it's their 2-time premiership Cat, Mitch Duncan, who does the job. 12-10-82, Port Adelaide 11-11-77, 13 and a half gone. Final turn, Grandstand AFL.
Well, it's a turnover, wasn't it? You called it, from Rowan Marshall, just trying to get it back inside on a short 45 kick. Brian Myers intercepting the ball and then managed to apply some pretty good pressure. Port Adelaide, then Brian Myers actually found himself with the ball back in his hands, just finding Mitch Duncan, who we've seen play a slightly different role tonight than most part of this year, playing half forward, coming up the stoppages. So we know how good he is with ball in hand, so the effectiveness that he's had forward of centre for Geelong had a real impact tonight.
Cats with the last 2. Stanley punches it out of the ruck. Parfitt onto it. Sweeps a handball out in front of Danger. Tackled by Boat. Gets up. Bursts through the tackle. Centres his kick. Stanley marks. Plays on. Looks at goal and misses. Misses left. Geelong out by 1 straight kick. Top 2 on the line for Port. A chance to get into the finals to defend their crown on the line for the Cats.
Burton on the kick out, short to Houston. Wants to hand it back to Burton, gives it to him. The former Hawk, long kick up to the wing, and Marshall Marks, who's been excellent in the second half, gives it to their superstar, and Butters, who goes racing away, puts on the Jets, kicks to Rioli, who takes the mark. Superb vision of the delivery Excellent. Rioli long to Lord. The youngster in the pocket can't complete the contested grab and it trickles out of bounds. The throw-in forward pocket for Port Adelaide. 13.5 gone, final term. Geelong by 6. We've had 6 lead changes, including 2 of them in this final quarter alone, 4 of the 6 in the second half.
4:50 stoppage for Port. And they find a goal to bring it level. Stanley slaps it boundary side. 2 Cats go after it, spoil each other, spills down to Evans. The former Cat can only snap it behind.
That kick from Butters earlier was outrageous how good that was.
5 points, Geelong's advantage. 14 minutes gone, fourth term.
Third in the coaches' votes behind only Nick Dacos and Christian Petrarca. Oh, Tui a little cute trying to get around Rioli on the mark. Does so eventually and hits up Dangerfield. Marks at half back.
That was also a great kick.
Geelong by 5. Dangerfield long down the wing. Hands to it from Burton. Takes the mark, but not before a hold. It's against Houston. Cameron to take it for the Cats. Down to half forward. Myers blazes away. Hits the behind post. Poor finish. The man who set up more goals than anyone else in the league, and yet his finishing himself has left a little to be desired. Just 5 goals for the year. Misses the whole set there. Geelong by 5, 15 gone, final term.
Burgoyne, a long kick out to the wing, through the hands of De Koning, spills to Bonner. His kick smothered, goes back to him, gives it off to Rosie, kicks forward to the wing. And in front, mark taken by Mead. Looks into the middle of the ground. Here's Butters, giving off the handball. Away towards Houston, who spears the kick right onto the chest of Lord. Has it at left half forward for Port, gives it off to Dersma. He'll look into the pocket for Powpepper, can only find Stewart. Marks defensively for the Cats.
Stewart goes long to Stengel, just marks inside the boundary line at half back. Pulls the trigger on the 45. Butters bangs bodies with Parfitt. Ball hits the deck. Lord scrapping for it. Parfitt wrestles it from him. O'Connor extracts it. Gives it to Bruin of the Cats. Hand pass to Stengel through it. Great tackle, Burgoyne. Wins it back to Port Adelaide. And the silence which falls over Kardinia Park. The big contest won.
It's a great game of footy. After an 11-goal first quarter, it's dried right up, but it's a great contest.
Geelong by 5, 16 gone in the last. Kick down to half forward. Hands to it from Mead, no mark. O'Connor hands it to the back of Smith. Goes back, collects. Geelong on the back flank. Colin Jasny gives it to O'Connor. He's tackled out high by Powpepper. Geelong with possession, with the lead. They're up by 5 points, 16 gone in the last.
O'Connor goes back to Smith, inside the defensive arc for the Cats. He'll go short to De Koning. De Koning a little bereft. Goes laterally to Stewart. Stewart comes back to Kolajasny. Kolajasny stabs it short to Smith. Geelong by 5. Smith short to Duncan. Now beyond the defensive arc. At left half back. Duncan will go short in turn to Bowes. Still backward of the centre line on the eastern side of the ground. Bowes will kick around the Hickey stand wing towards a contest. Put Adelaide there. Dersma marks. Virtually uncontested in the end. He's got it at right half back. Geelong by 5.
He goes back to the playmaker. Butters. Centre half back for Port. Dangerous kick for the veteran bloke. He's outnumbered. Ball spills out the back. McEntee pops an unkind bounce. De Koning for Geelong. To Cameron. Away to Duncan. Hand pass to Watkins. Loose handball. Still a footy to be won on the wing. Smith tackled by Powpepper. Ball comes out. Duncan for Geelong. Hand pass to De Koning. To Smith. To Guthrie. Kicks to centre half forward. Close down there. Spoils. Spills to Parfitt. Hand pass to Dangerfield. Unguarded goal square. He's off target. Misses out to the right and behind. 17.5 gone final quarter. Geelong by 6 points. 12-12 to 11-12. A 1-goal game.
Are we all thinking it already? 18-minute mark. 6 points. Draw.
Oh, short kick in from Burton. Just gets to Jonas. Must have been I wasn't, BJ.
Now you are.
Now I am.
Such a tight contest. Both teams are struggling to get really good looks at goal. Geelong have had a couple.
Jonas long up to the wing. Ratugolea following up at ground level off the contest. He's worried out of it. Leaves it behind. Willem Drew can't get it. Wines just gets it moving forward for Port. Into the middle. Butters, clever toe poke. Rioli leaves it behind. And now the Cats are everywhere. Here goes Dangerfield receiving it from Stanley. He'll kick to Myers. He slides and marks. Two kicks from home.
Just the two draws all year. Geelong and Sydney in the grand final rematch in round one, the opening game. Richmond Carlton.
Well, the ball fell into Rioli's lap then, but he did the fumble. They were out. They had two guys streaming past for the handball.
Myers, high half forward, kicks into the pocket, off hands, it's out of play. So a boundary throw in. Ian Cohen is on the boundary. Koza.
I think the bigger question might be Port Adelaide's sloppy defence at three-quarter time. That 1 point, could that make the difference?
Certainly a talking point. Kick landing right on the line. Port weren't able to keep it out from Jeremy Cameron. And a close run thing. Meanwhile, Sydney Derby, 9 gone in the last. Swans by 11. Boundary throw in. Parfitt hands it to Cameron. He fumbles. Loose footy. Wines collects. Gang tackle. Hump says, I'll have it. And the ball up 45 out from Geelong's goal at the Barwon River end. Cats by 6 points. About to tick into time on final term.
Umpire puts it up. Vicentini hooking it down. Lots of players around it. Atkins fumbles it. Allows in Port Adelaide to tackle Isaac Smith after he picks it up. Another ball up. 45 out from the Cats' goal. Vicentini backhanding it down. Trying to come through Parfitt. Handball out to Izzy Smith. On his wrong side. Gets it onto the right. Trying to take the diving mark. Unable to. Wines. Now close. He's wrapped up. And the umpire wants to sort it out once more. Geelong by 6. We're now into time on in the fourth.
Up it goes, centre half back for Port Adelaide. Vicentini down to Rosie. Under pressure, tackled by Myers. Ball comes out, it's holding the ball. Rosie can't believe it. The descent 50's gone away. There's hands out everywhere, appealing to the umpire. But it'll be a grind. Myers free kick in the pocket.
Like he got a handball off for me. I'm not sure whether there's no such thing as incorrect disposal anymore, is there? So he's got a handball.
Clean handball.
He wasn't happy. He had his teammates appealing with him, and Connor Rosie still with their hands on hips as he glares at the umpire. And Grind Myers, the right forward pocket, 30 out. A chance to make it a 2-score game. He skips in, right peg against the fence, trying to draw it back. He's got it. The Cats with a 2-goal break. Myers with 2 of his own. And a huge flashpoint in this final term. 22 gone in the last. Geelong 13-12-90, Port Adelaide 11-12-78. And Myers catches in the gift on the free kick. Brendan Goddard, grandstand AFL.
After what's been a great 10 minutes from both teams, just in terms of the contest, the effort, the intensity around the ball, no one's willing to budge, and then it just feels so deflating as just as a spectator here watching the game that I'm not going to comment on too much. I have to be careful. I have to be careful what I say, but like just for that potentially, just to
not in keeping with how we've seen it umpired throughout the night or throughout the season.
It's all in front of Port. What can they muster late? Atkins on the bounce in the restart, tackled quickly. They need 3 scores. Vicentini knocking it down. Butters trying to scrap after it. Coming through Holmes for the Cats. He's buffeted off it. And Port will win it through Burgoyne. Gives it to Rosie. Runs away with it. Sweeps a handball to release Horne-Francis. Leading up Marshall. Nearly drops the chest mark. Second bite takes it. 45 out. Virtually directly in front.
Just Geelong mids now, just have to be a little bit careful.
Oh, he chips it on. Not much further forward. Mark taken by Horne-Francis. 40 out. A plumb line to the goal.
It's just that they need, obviously, you may mention 3 scores at least, so the Port Adelaide midfielders just ducking out the back there. Geelong continually just hunting the footy, trying to outnumber, but they just have to make smart decisions now that Port have to actually take risks to win the game. So you may see a little bit more of that. Geelong just have to be aware of it as midfielders.
Vaughan Francis trying to rise to the moment. The set shot is away to the left. Can't find the major opening. It is one of the 3 scores they needed, though. The issue is they need 2 majors. 23 and a half into the 4th.
Just late back on that, Benny.
Felt like a must-have for Port Adelaide. Short kick from Stewart to Bowes. Gets it back. Stewart to Rowan. Crushes the pack, no mark. Hits the deck. Dangerfield hand pass to Bruin. Handball to Holmes. He's out of room. And the boundary throw-in right on halfway. Geelong by 11 points. 24 gone in the last. Cats trying to avoid back-to-back losses at home for the first time since 2015.
So the Port Adelaide midfielders just signalling to their bench how long's left, so they're well aware of the time, so that'll dictate how they respond and act around the stoppages in particular.
Geelong stoppage win. Atkins, hand pass to Stengel to Bruin. Hand pass picked off. Burne-Jones gives it to Butters. He's caught. Stengel, the chase down tackle, now gets the footy. Receives a hand pass from Bruin. Long kick into the forward pocket. Ollie Henry's out the back. Lifts a hand pass to Close. Close goals. And Kardinia Park erupts. Geelong all of a sudden out by 17 at the 25-minute mark of the final term. Geelong 14-12-96. Port Adelaide 11-13-79. And that door is starting to shut on the power.
It's not close anymore, is it? So 3 goals at least for Port Adelaide to have a chance, and I just don't feel we don't have a countdown clock
we got
in here.
3 minutes and a bit.
Sorry to spoil it for everyone, but 3 minutes, I don't see them being done. That Horn Francis, or the umpire decision on Rosine, the Horns Francis attempt on goal was a defining moment for Port Adelaide.
Vicentini pinged in the middle. Dangerfield away with it. Low ball. Looking for Duncan. Can't mark. Burton bursts away with it for Port. From halfback, a kick up to Lord. Long searching lead onto the wing. He'll wheel and look long. Kicks high towards Marshall. Up he goes over the back. Coming up, Kolodjasny. Tackled. Loses it. Bowes onto it. Pepper knocks it out. Rioli gathers. Off to Pepper. Snap on goal. There's a pulse yet.
They go early.
3 for Pepper. Port aren't done yet. 12-13-85 move Port. Geelong 14-12-96. 26 and a half minutes into this final term. There's life yet.
You say more time than there are goals?
Yes.
I like to say the Lee Matthews
theory rule. Again, look for Geelong now just to go into Son Paul save the game. Just send either a forward or a winger behind the ball, potentially 2, just to clog up the defensive end for them, and then look for Port Adelaide obviously trying to win the game to send numbers forward, or the midfielders in particular, to spit out a contest or stoppage.
Port trying to reel in Geelong and silence the Geelong chant. Out of the middle, Horn Francis knocks it to Butters. Can't trap it. Atkins sockers it in the wrong direction. Races out after it. Knocks it to Stewart. Stewart tackled by Horn Francis. It's in the back. The 50-50 free kick goes to the Cats, and now 50 for the back chap. There's a huge inside 50 for Port. A marginal free kick, and now a 50. They kicked a goal from a free kick earlier in the quarter, which put Geelong 2 goals up. And Port Adelaide feel as if the rub of the grain has gone against them in this final term. 28 minutes travel, Geelong by 11. Stewart trying to bleed out the clock, goes short and wide, and Izzy Smith marks on the eastern wing. Geelong by 11 points, 28 gone, final term.
Smith looks long to a contest. Down in front, Port Adelaide have the numbers. One strike to win the footy, wrenches it free. Kick straight to Bowes though. Cats back with it. Kick inside 50. Marshall, fresh air's the punch. Now at the back. Mead's able to slap it away. Free kick taken high. And Mead will get the kick at fullback.
This will go up the middle. Surely it has to. Don't go
Ward
wide.
need to go.
Oh, they did.
Mead goes out wide. Out to halfback. Dersma looks out to Powpepper on the wing. Powpepper knows he just needs to go. He'll chip his kick for Houston. Overshoots it. Stewart comes up and marks. And it's very tough for Port from here.
They need 2 goals in 90 seconds and they haven't got the footy. 29 minutes elapsed, final term. Geelong by 11 points. Stewart contest kick down to half forward. Hands on it from Stanley. No mark. Pat forms at his feet. Comes out the back door to Atkins. Powpepper's all over him. Somehow got a kick away. Myers marks. Moves it on. Stengel. No mark. Williams spoils. Stengel as it hits the deck. Still tracking it. Close to the boundary line. In the end it trickles out. And a boundary showing forward pocket for Geelong.
So 40 seconds to go there. Bought themselves enough time. Geelong done a good job. Just slowed it up the last 2.5, 3 minutes.
Boundary throwing. Forward pocket. Vicentini wins the hit out. Oh, down it comes.
No.
High tackle. Free kick. It's spilt the way of Duncan and over the shoulder the tackle came and he's clipped high. And a free kick for the Geelong veteran with the seconds ticking down. He'll get it 45 out right, half forward.
I thought they changed that rule.
Tucked into it. It'll be the last act of the game. Geelong's premiership defence is alive. Duncan, the last kick of the match. Drop punt misses out to the right. The Cats win it by 2 goals. Port are on a 4-game losing skid with the lights flickering at Alberton. Geelong by 12. Sensational game of footy. 12 goals in the opening quarter, 7 to Geelong, 5 to Port Adelaide. We had 2 lead changes in the first half, and in the second half we had a further 4. Port Adelaide with the first 3 goals of the third term to hit the front. Geelong wrestled it back to lead by 1 as we turned for home, and then the lead changing with 2 of the first 3 goals in the final term. Geelong held them off thereafter to win by 12 points and stay in touch with the top 8. It's a win that has them in the top 8 tonight. Of course, with Carlton still to play, they get the 10.5 wins. They snap a 2-game losing sequence. Meanwhile, for Port Adelaide, they are vulnerable big time. They sit on 14 wins still, having lost just 2 games in the first 17 weeks. They've now lost 4 on the trot. If Brisbane and Melbourne win their games still to come this weekend, Port Adelaide could be 4th by the end of the weekend, which means the 2 home finals are slipping through their fingers with just 3 weeks left in the home and away season. There's a lot to pull apart in all of that. The goal kickers, firstly. Ollie Henry kicked 4, 2 for Jeremy Cameron, 2 for Brian Myers, and then singles for Smith, Bowes, Stengel, Duncan, Dangerfield and Close. While for Port Adelaide, Willie Rioli kicked 4, Powpepper 3, was excellent, particularly down the stretch. 2 for Todd Marshall, and then singles for Butters, Boak and Horne-Francis. Geelong by 12 points. Initial thoughts, Brendan Goddard, on what we've seen tonight here at Kardinia Park, the Cats by 2 goals.
Yeah, well, it was a great game, let's be honest, from the start. But I guess it was kind of polar opposites, wasn't it? From the start of the game, 11 goals in the first quarter, such a free-flowing, attacking, referred to it as a game of basketball, how it was bouncing up and back, and the efficiency was through the roof from both teams. And then the last three quarters, I think it looked more like a kind of finals contenders kind of game where both teams tightened up defensively, were able to slow one another down, tighten the screws, and then Port Adelaide got on top, particularly in that start of that third quarter. How good was their start, kicking 3 goals in 3 minutes, and it was looking like they could run over the top of Geelong. And then there was a really good response by Geelong. In my notes, it was probably from the 8 to 20 minute mark. Geelong actually fought their way back into the game and got momentum in that third quarter, which arguably saved them the game or led to this win, because Port Adelaide looked like they were going to run away with it. But there was a really good response from some of their key players and experienced players in Geelong. And then it's Port Adelaide in the last quarter just started red hot again, got on top around stoppages. I think I can go as far as saying the best man on the ground was influential in the start of the third and the start of the last in Butters was unbelievable tonight. Just
unreal. Just
his ball use in particular going forward. A couple of kicks I made mention, they were crazy good, so I can't really explain how good they were, because one, you can't see it if you're listening at home, and two, if you're watching or you're listening and watching it on the tally doesn't do it justice, because we've got the bird's eye view.
And for a guy that's
here,
so not overly tall, at what looks to be running at flat-out speed, and yet at such pace, is able to pull kicks sort of on the right-hand side of his body over his left shoulder, back inboard, hits a target, flat drop punts that don't hang in the air. He's an amazing player to watch.
Just to put it in context, on that far side, the kick that I said that was outrageous, he kicked to Willie Rioli across his body. He put his head down, took a bounce, burnt off Paddy Dangerfield, who we know how quick and powerful he is. He fell over trying to chase him, then was pursued by someone else, still able, like you made mention, there's not too many guys, there's a lot of guys that can kick at top pace, but not many can do it well and hit a target where they need it, and the type of kick that's needed to hit a target. And he's done that across his body into a little pocket of space where arguably Willie Rioli, and I actually teach this as a coach, do not lead there and do not expect the kicker to actually kick it to you, because it's a crazy, stupid lead that you may hit 1 out of 10. But he's done it a number of times tonight. So that's just to put it in the context. And then from that kick, it just opens up the game completely for Port Adelaide. And then takes out, again, like I may mention a number of times, the sagging defenders, and great defenders, mind you, of Geelong. In particular, Stewart, who's arguably the best at it in the competition. So, yeah, it was a topsy-turvy game, and it just seems a bit flattening. As I said, just a game that was so close, and it was within, I think it was 5 points at the time, or 6 points.
Yep.
And just, what looked like a clear handball from Connor Rosey in Geelong's forward pocket, which got caught holding the ball, and just that for really to decide the game, because let's be honest, it's pretty deflating for Port Adelaide when they're up and about. It's a great game of footy, it's a great contest, they're well within it, 6 points in it. They arguably got the momentum, and for something like that to happen, and then, it was still 12 points, and then the other turning point I've got here in my notes too is that Horn Francis miss, probably 45 out straight in front, just the context of that and how much it meant it was after the Powell Pepper goal, which I went a little bit earlier on, said the game's out of reach with just over 3 minutes left, and they needed 3 goals, not 3 scores, 3 goals.
So that was
Powell Pepper gets 1, they get another opportunity straight in front, 45 out. Just the pressure of that moment, he would have sensed it, mind you. So in a hostile crowd down here in Geelong, and then just to miss that, and then obviously we know what happened afterwards. The ball goes down there, a bit of contest in the middle, great contest from Stengel, in the forward pocket for Geelong, and then kick goal and the game's out of reach. So they were well within it with 2 minutes to go, and it turns out to be a 12-point loss. But I thought it was a great context. And just to put in the context, Geelong needed to win tonight based on what's happening above them on the ladder. Obviously the Bulldogs, hopefully the Saints win tomorrow, but Carlton's in the mix. Sydney won? What's happening there?
They're 11 points up a short time ago. Is that full time?
Benjamin?
7 points. Sydney are up with 4 minutes to play.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many? highlighted how many
back.
games have GWS been in that are tight this year? Like,
so they've
Adam Kingsley's got a full set of hair. He's going great, but he's going to have no hair by the end of his coaching career if this keeps up. But just back to Geelong. But so they were under the pump. Blitzarv's out, Hawkins out. Patches through this game looked like Port Adelaide were going to storm away with it and run away with it, but there was just a response. The season was arguably on the line tonight.
14 of 19, by the way, for GWS. They've played in under 20 points throughout the season. Let's get into the winners' rooms. Cats by 2 goals. Ian Cullen.
Absolutely. The boys are just starting to wander in now. They're going to form up in the circle. Of course, you've got that rare experience here at Geelong of the glass ceiling. So the crowd gathers above the players as well to look down on the circle. And, of course, there's plenty behind the netting. We're going to talk to young Ollie Henry, who is the 4-goal hero, of course. Got them on the path early before the power hit back. Here's the song.
Team of all. Hey, we are Geelong. We're always on the ball. We play the game as it should be played. Hey, at home or far away. Our banners flying high from goal to duck down at Gardenia Park.
Thanks, Kay. So we'll get back to you in just a moment. The Cats winners by 12 points, as you said, huge in the context of their season. This is their first game tonight without Hawkins and Blitzarves in the team since round 22, 2017. So you have to go back 6 years since the last time Geelong played a game without either of them in the lineup. They snap a 2-game losing skid tonight. They have Collingwood next Friday night at the MCG. Doubts over whether Nick Dacos will be there. He's been sent for a scan. Possible bone bruising. Didn't finish the match today.
Bruising on what?
Maybe his ego. I kid, of course. I hope he's okay. He only had... So, stop. I apologise. He only had...
Don't apologise, mate. Don't backtrack over it.
He only had 5 disposals.
I know you're joking.
He was well held by Finn McGuinness. His previous low...
Finisher.
His previous low was actually 16 disposals in a game, Nick Dacos, just the 5 today. A knee concern, bone bruising is the fear. Collingwood aren't too concerned, but sent for a scan tonight. In what was a pretty dirty day for the Magpies. Murphy had an ankle injury. Tom Mitchell had ice applied to his quad. And, of course, Hawthorn winning that game by 32. The Cats by 12 here over Port Adelaide and waning moments in Sydney. It's the Swans by 13 over GWS. Back into the winners' rooms. Down to Ian Cohen. Koza.
Yes, thanks very much, Corby. Ollie Henry was the man that set the Cats alight, certainly in the first half as well. And in the end, you got home by a couple of goals. What a win.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. The crowd was just so good in that last part. It was just so fun to play. And yeah, we just loved it and we just fed off it. And yeah, each one of us just kept positive, and that last quarter was just electric.
Well, you know what it's like sitting out in the grandstand. I mean, you've come through, obviously, St Mary's, St Joey's. You're a local homegrown boy, so you know what it means to people wearing the hoops on the outside of the fence.
Yeah, exactly. Back a while ago now, Jack and I used to, and our family sat actually front row behind the goals where the cheer squad's supposed to be. So, yeah, it's been a long way since sitting on the esky watching the Cats play, but yeah, it just means a whole lot playing for and for the crowd as well.
What about Jack tonight? Obviously, he's had foot issues and again sidelined.
Yeah, and I haven't spoken to Jack yet, but from what I hear, it was he got trotted on, so I don't think it's anything to do with his pass. So hopefully it's positive signs from here.
And just before we go upstairs, 4 goals, great haul. I think you did it earlier against North Melbourne as well, so you got the kicking boots on this year.
I mean, it's just when the boys play our brand footy, it's just luck of the draw who gets on the end of them in our forward line. There's a lot of talent down there, and tonight I just tried to execute some of my chances and give them off to my teammates, and yeah, I was just one of the lucky ones.
You certainly made the most of them. Here's Brendan Goddard.
G'day, Ollie. Yeah, it's just me tonight, mate, so you have to put up with me for the next couple of minutes.
But
right. It's just after the start, like 11 goals in the first quarter. How do you sum up the game, and what do you think changed after that first quarter, which we all loved as spectators, I'm sure?
Yeah.
As the coaches probably were a little bit nervous the way that it was both teams were scoring so freely.
Yeah, it was very attacking first quarter, and
you're obviously a beneficiary of it, so you didn't mind it.
Yeah, we as forwards don't mind, but yeah, no, we just had to tighten the screws a little bit, and I think so did Port, and they did a good job of it. So yeah, it died down a little bit, but it was just a game of momentum. Port got a good run on, and they played off emotion, and I guess so did we. But in the end, we're just lucky enough to tip them over.
Yeah, was that the messaging? Don't have to give too much away at quarter time. Just about defensively, just trying to slow the opposition up and get the game more in a contest.
Yeah. As forwards, we were, after the first quarter, pretty happy with how the game was going for us. But I guess when they get a good run on, it's as forwards we need to help the mids, try to stop their momentum because they're a pretty talented team.
Yeah, how do you sum up you in Geelong? Is it everything you'd hoped? What your brother had told you, and you obviously come from one of the most powerful footy clubs in the land. But moving down here, can you just maybe put into context what's so good about it and what attracts players down to Geelong? I know you're a homegrown kind of talent, but what is it about Geelong and what do you experience this year?
I can't fault Collingwood at all. So whatever I say here, it's purely based on what I'm feeling at Geelong. It's a great club, and it's got a great culture and a great system down here. And for me, I'm learning off some great players and playing in a forward line with players of such talent, so learning to work with them, all shapes and sizes, like Tom Hawkins, Jeremy Cameron, that's amazing. And I'm so lucky to be doing that. And I guess this is a club that I can see myself playing at for my lifetime if I could. And that's pretty much it. But I love it, and it wouldn't change a thing.
I don't know, Ollie. What I heard is ahead of a rematch against your former club, the culture's way better down here at the Cats. I'm joking. Yeah. Coming up against Collingwood once again next Friday night. We got I'm not sure, was it the Cattiers or I can't hear you? I'm not sure what it was last time out. Have you got anything special for your former side this time?
No, I was going a lot of emotion when I did that celebration. It was a big build-up.
You didn't cry though, mate, like some of us. Against playing against the last team.
Build up from whole pre-season going into round one. There was a lot of emotion in it, and I guess this part of the season you're going week by week, so it's a little bit less time to think ahead. But eyes are now focused on trying to win that next match.
Just a bizarre one. We heard during the week that a lot of players have asked Buddy Franklin for his jumper over the course of this year, and he hasn't taken it off in the middle of the ground, but he's posted it to them. Do you know any Cats players who have tracked down Buddy and got his jumper posted to them later?
No, I actually haven't heard anything about this. If there is any, I'll have to let you know. But
get onto it. You be the first, mate.
From what I know, I haven't heard a thing.
I'm zip for two asking that question this weekend, Ollie. So
don't get me wrong, I'd love a Buddy jersey.
Ollie,
I'd love one.
Are you in touch with many of your former teammates? Will you speak to any of them this week leading into the game with your old side?
Yeah, of course. I've got a lot of love for a lot of the boys at Collingwood. It doesn't change. You're all friends, and footy is just the game we play. And I've got strong connections with them, and I'm sure after the game we'll give each other a big hug.
Mate, I love the theatre of it, so I'm on the lookout. I hope we do see another similar celebration. Good luck on Friday night against your old team and on the run home from here. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Ollie Henry from the Cats kicked 4 goals. I didn't want to embarrass our man because he's done a great job tonight. Ben Cameron, he's called well. Lance Franklin missed both games against Geelong this year. So
See, that's you're the protege, mate. See, that's why he's the skipper. He's done his homework. He knows his stuff. He doesn't make errors like that. You've already got 2 crosses next to your name tonight.
That was my third
that's
strike.
Your third
I'm out.
strike.
I'll unplug the mic.
Give us a few on the SMS. So 0437 774 774. Their contributions throughout the night.
Just to inform you, you haven't actually been privy to it, but I actually hold Corbin accountable to his mistakes most times we work together. You're obviously fresh this year, so I've written in my book for our listeners, when he does make a mistake, I'll put a cross and just showing the page.
I got 2 of them.
You got 2 of them, and then I'll just put a third there for that.
That's it.
Yep. This is the coaching feedback we receive on the run in the box here on Grandstand AFL. Rick from Margaret River, beautiful wine region of the big state. Hi, Ben and Co. We're here in the Cameron deficient West. At least we get to hear him in the big Victorian games. There's nothing better than the headlamp on gardening on a lovely, calm evening with the excitement of Grandstand AFL. Thank you, gents. So thank you, Rick. Hopefully he's still with us.
The headlamp. He's doing some gardening at night.
At night.
Yeah, Rick is often gardening at night while we're calling down there in
He's a regular.
Yeah, regular. Kevin in Myrtleford says, great game, great call, boys. Anybody's game. That was obviously earlier on in the night. Dave in Bentley says, do coaches make positional moves anymore? Whenever a change comes over the game, that the cause invariably seems to be one team lifting their pressure.
Yeah.
Is that all footy comes down to now?
No. Well,
we don't see as much of flipping the magnets around as we used to, but clearly they're changing schematic things in the box, aren't they?
Well, yes. Positions don't seem to be as defined as they once were, do they? So
no, you're a backman. I guess you're kind of a key back or a kind of backman. It's kind of two, because everyone, I guess, with the evolution of the game, that everyone's encouraged to get used offensively, get involved offensively. So even the key backs, the great key backs, are more attacking than they've ever been. There's not the old lockdown kind of, my only job is to stop the key forward from touching or kicking a goal, and I'm happy to get 0 touches. There's an expectation that, and that's the evolution of the athlete, right? I think the athletes these days are bigger and better and faster than ever, so they've added that element to their game. So, no, but there's just little tweaks. And it really depends. I can't speak for everyone else, right? So clearly, being a part of, a Ross Lyon era previously and now currently, I know the things that we do and what we've got up our sleeve in during games and how you tweak things. But in terms of what are we talking, like the old Ash Hansen or
the swing man back in the
Adam Hunter.
Adam Hunter was the one I'm looking for. Apologies.
Yep.
Adam Hunter, so something like that. But
what about when Woosha brought that to Essendon and Cale Hooker all of a sudden went from one end of the ground to the other, and when that card came out, you knew it was serious. The boys were chasing the game, and there goes Hooksy into the forward 50.
So there's a few guys that can do that, but so it doesn't happen as much. But we saw two Muppets. Look at that. Those Western Australians.
It was Woosha's trump card. He loved it.
But we saw tonight, so the magnet's not flipping ends, but we saw Port Adelaide make a number of changes, 3 changes if I go through my notes. I think I reel them off. Burton to Cameron after the first quarter. Jonas came off him. Jonas went to Jack Henry, who was, I said he was a bit proppy on his leg, so that's a better matchup. Bonner was on Ollie Henry, who was getting a bath.
Yes.
Houston went to him.
Yep.
Bonner actually then went to a wing. So they
had an impact.
Yeah,
had
so
an
there
impact,
were moves.
So that's what I'm saying. So there's moves. Yep. It's just not as kind of black or white as Adam Hunter go from full back to full forward and impact the game. So just an obvious one at St Kilda is Jack Sinclair played a bit more time in the midfield. Mitchie Owen goes as a forward, can go in the ruck, and then last week you saw him play more as a midfielder. So there's things that change. It's just not as kind of black and white. But guys are very much more versatile and adaptable, and so they should be. It arguably prolongs your career. So if you've got that ability to play different positions, add strings to your bow, then they do it. You're not just pinned down to one position, which if you don't do that well enough, that you find yourself out of the team or without a career.
There was another SMS just quickly, Corbin, from David saying regarding the Cameron shot in 3/4 time, team that should be no score for the touch going through the goalpost. I did, just to be sure, go to the just rule book.
Just quickly on what happened. Yep. So Cameron had a set shot. Burn Jones was on the line.
Yep.
He was looking to try and spoil and obviously save the goal that was on target.
Yep.
He put his hand out.
Skimmed off his fist and sort of went behind the goal line.
Over the goal line.
As the siren sounded when the ball was in the air. So it was adjudicated as a point. So football touched in transit. This is after the siren. A behind shall be recorded under law 16.5.1 if the football is touched in transit by another player, provided the field umpire is satisfied the scoring of the behind was not assisted by a player from the same team. So if it was a Geelong player who sort of whacked the ball on and it then goes through, no score. But in this instance, it is a behind.
Okay, that's good clarification. Thanks for all of that. 0437 774 774. The run home for the Cats. Collingwood at the MCG Friday night. They've now lost 2 in a row. Gee, that's a game of footy. Cats are 8th on the table as it sits at the moment. If BJ Saints do them a favour tomorrow, they could even end the round in the top 8. So they'll be watching closely to see what happens
favour is
tomorrow.
In Saints win.
Yep. Yeah. If the Saints beat the Blues. It'll hold the Blues out of the 8. Then St Kilda, so Geelong St Kilda, Docklands round 23, and the Western Bulldogs back here at Kardinia Park to finish. So big one against the Pies, and then 2 winnable games against teams around their station, the Saints and the Bulldogs. But they're all top 8 teams from here.
Port's finish. You mentioned that they're clinging on to the top 4.
But the problem Port have is their percentage is horrific. So their percentage only 109 for a team that's second.
107 or something.
If Brisbane beat Fremantle tomorrow and Melbourne beat North, which is the favoured way, so if the favourites win, they'll be 4th tomorrow, Port Adelaide. Their last 3 games they played GWS at Adelaide Oval, Fremantle in Perth, and Richmond at Adelaide Oval. So Giants, Dockers, Tigers in their last 3 at the Power. 2 of them at home and full-time in Sydney. The Swans winning the Sydney Derby. So an 11-point win for Sydney.
On a heater.
Yes. It's another victory for last year's grand finalists. 4 in a row. And in fact, they've only lost 1 of their last 7. So that's a handy little streak for the Swans. So what it all means in the context of the competition: the ladder, as it stands right now, Geelong in 8th spot, Carlton in 9th, still to play tomorrow. And Sydney are actually equal on 42 competition points, so 10.5 wins. Swans with the worst percentage of those 3 teams. And, of course, the Blues still to play this weekend. Meanwhile, for GWS, they're still 7th, and they'll actually hold their place in the 8 at the end of the weekend, regardless of what happens tomorrow. So the Giants in 7th. The matches tomorrow, round 21, Sunday footy. First up, just after 1 o'clock Eastern, North Melbourne and Melbourne. So Alistair Clarkson's coaching returns to the Roos and the D's just after 1 o'clock Eastern down at the Bellerive Oval in Hobart. Then 3 o'clock tomorrow, our network game, St Kilda up against Carlton. It's going to be a huge game at Docklands, Saints and the Blues. And then the nightcap over in Perth, so just after 4 o'clock or just after 4:30 Eastern time, the Fremantle Dockers and the Brisbane Lions. The votes here tonight, BJ, in the ABC Footballer of the Year.
3 and 2, I felt, was pretty obvious.
Yep.
But 1 goes to Tom Stewart. Another magnificent game. Don't have to go through stats.
Didn't players... We've seen him in the midfield in recent weeks. You talked about Jack Sinclair, sort of the defender thrown on the ball. We saw it in the second half against Brisbane and the game you did, Ben, last week against the Dockers.
There you go, moving magnets.
Yeah. Yep. We didn't see him as much on the ball tonight, though, did we?
Well, again, I think it depends on how the game's kind of panning out. But I think without him tonight, and just his leadership as well, but it's a pretty even spread across the ground too. Casting my memory back to about guys that actually influence the game, and then when I reference it with stats, for people that tune in regularly, I don't like to refer to stats, or it's secondary based on what I feel and see out there. So, Brian Myers, the man, his effectiveness forward of centre. I highlighted the small forwards from Geelong a number of times. Their impact tonight was huge. So close. Ollie Henry obviously hitting the scoreboard, but it classifies as a small forward. Brian Myers being the number 1 assist player in the competition, which would have extended his lead tonight, I would have thought. But just his impact forward to centre, his ability to get up the ground and lose his opponent on the way back and work so hard back, but then to have an impact. A number of times we highlight him on the far side. He's using his legs to cut back inside and change the angle, going inside 50. And a couple of them probably weren't inside 50, so it doesn't look as kind of shiny as it should as a stat. But that just opened up the whole game for Geelong, and then makes them more efficient going inside 50 to find a mark or hit the scoreboard. So, and we saw him and Close in particular link up a number of times with their ball use and hands in particular, just through the midfield between the arcs. So his impact is huge tonight. And the man that I thought was clearly best on ground was Zach Butters.
He's a freak.
So just his speed, his power, his impact, and again, look at his stats. He's only had... So Port Adelaide won the contested possession tonight by plus 19. So it's obviously a stat that gets thrown around a lot, but it's a pretty important one, particularly between the arcs, just in terms of gaining territory, getting the ball in your half and in your forward half, and then you can set up really well behind it. So that's why that stat's generally so important. And as I said, between the arcs, but he's only won 7 contested possessions tonight, so that's a low number for him. So it just shows him, or for me, just the all-round game that he has, because there's games, and the one from memory in the game in the wet, Port Adelaide, when he single-handedly won them the game. Who was that against again?
Melbourne.
and his numbers were outrageous. The 40 touches or something, and just stupid contested. So he's just got this all-round game that, based on the circumstances and how the game's been played, that he can adapt to it and have an impact. So it was more on the outside tonight, getting through stoppages, getting out the front of stoppages, ball use going inside 50, and a couple of those kicks I just said that literally were direct goal assists on one of them, and then a second one, I think was a couple of them were score assists. So yeah, an outstanding game, but and again, I haven't seen him live too much, but he was outstanding tonight.
Yeah, it was a bravura performance by him. He was sensational.
What was that?
Bravura.
We didn't bring our thesaurus tonight, PJ, so it's very difficult for us to understand.
Sensational performance. 3 for Butters.
What does that mean?
2 for Myers. Just excellent.
Sounds like
excellent.
Bravo, doesn't it?
1 for Stewart. The votes in the ABC Football of the Year. So I didn't want to tell you before you gave your votes. Marcus Bontempelli out on top with 27, so same as the Brownlow, obviously 3-2-1. Nick Dacos stays on 24. Butters now to 23, so he's 4 off the lead with 3 to play. Taranto also on 23, Petrarca 21, and Sarong on 20, of course, to play tomorrow for the Dockers over in Perth. Good fun, Beach. We'll make the trip back home, but appreciate you coming down and holding it one out. And
that was easy.
Turned on a pretty
little
good.
bit easy.
You
don't have to listen to other people talk.
We turned on a pretty good game for you, so appreciate your company. Well done, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks to Ian Cohen down in the rooms, to the cult figure Adam Jones back in the studio, to Stu Birchmore for holding it down, doing a superb job on the buttons. That's it for us tonight. The 2 winners, Sydney by 11 points in the derby over GWS. Meanwhile, it was Geelong by 12 points here tonight over Port Adelaide. 12 noon Eastern tomorrow, Grandstand AFL Sunday. I'll be there with Chad Wingard, a winning Hawk, and Mark Murphy going